Broadcasting from their world headquarters in Texas, it's the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show, the show that discusses arcade repair, restoration, news, and more. Now, here are your hosts, Tim and Jonathan.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 34 of the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show for December 2019. My name is Jonathan Lee Young, and I'm the producer, director, and editor of the Arcade Repair Tips video series. And joining me today, as always, is Mr. Arcade Repair Tips himself, in a very festive hat, I should say.
Looks like yours.
Exactly. Tim Peterson is with me, guys, and please welcome him to the show like you have to. But, you know, how's it going, Tim?
Great.
We had some little problems, guys. YouTube has changed their live streaming platform.
Yeah.
And we could not find the go live button to save our lives, but we did find it, so we are live now. Thankfully.
Right.
So it took a little bit. Thank you for bearing with us. It was just a weird thing where, Tim, apparently you have to have that window maximized in order to see the go live button, and I did not realize this. So
now we know.
Now we know. We will know that going forward. But there's some changes that YouTube has made, Tim, and this is on their part, and so we're still trying to learn some things, but I think we're in the clear now. I think we're okay. I see audio. I see video. I think we're okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you guys can see us in the live chat, please let us know, and hopefully everything will go well going forward. And then we had some other technical difficulties. We were playing the intro music and some other things, so I think we got it all ironed out.
Okay.
Are we gonna be good?
I think so.
Okay.
What do you guys seeing this?
Let's see. Now it says that we're it's saying that there may be a little bit of a delay, so our stream health may be a little low, guys. So bear with us while it continues to kind of catch up.
Okay.
Because usually, Tim, what we do is we'll stream for a while to let the video catch up and things,
Right.
the audio catch up, and so it may be poor for a while until it starts buffering well. So again, bear with us while we have some technical deals. So we are recording this, Tim. We always record them now because we
Right.
had that one episode where we didn't record it and ended up losing a lot of it. So ever since then, we do record them. So if for some reason this gets all jumbled, we'll upload the video recorded copy for you. So
The chat room looks pretty busy.
yes, we got a lot of people in here tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. Jason says, hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Hopefully you had a great Thanksgiving, Tim.
Very good.
Let's see what else we got on here. Merry Christmas Arcade Bros from Seahorses at Night, Tim. So one of our
Merry
regulars
Christmas.
there. All night.
Okay.
So there you go. Doug Jones says, works. Discussion time with Arcade Repair Tips. Yes, stream looks solid so far. Okay, I think we're in the clear.
Let's get started.
There we go. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. It has been a crazy December for me, Tim. I don't know about you. How's it going for you?
It's one of those where you know Christmas time is coming, and it's still coming. It's like it can't. When you're a kid, it seemed like it was a year away. You know, that last month. Now it's like, oh my gosh, I got so much to do, got stuff to get ready for, got stuff to buy. It's really getting crazy, and we've been busy at work too, so that's been good.
Well, I think not having that extra like half week after Thanksgiving that we usually have. Like usually you have Thanksgiving, you can kind of have like a half week in November left before you move into December.
Right.
Not having like that extra 5 or so days, 4 days in between, I think has accelerated everything, Tim.
I think so.
I'm kind of freaking out because I don't have the lights up on my house yet, and I'm thinking they may only be there a week by the time I get them up. So hopefully you guys are doing better than we are as far as decorating is concerned. But Tim, we are not here to talk about Christmas decorating unless you're putting arcade machines in your front yard. So then we are. But otherwise, we're here to talk about, of course, arcade repair. Now remember, you can interact with us during the live show in the live chat room. Tim, we got a lot of people already in there, like we mentioned.
It's busy.
I do want to throw something right up front.
Okay.
Literally about an hour before we went on, maybe an hour and a half before we went on today, Eric from the Question and Answer podcast texted me and said they have put together a new episode.
Yay.
And so it will be uploaded shortly. It's ready to go. They didn't answer any questions in this one, but what they did was they covered what it took to open up their location of the Game Preserve in Houston.
Awesome.
So if you guys are interested in what it takes to put together your own free play arcade, you can listen to Eric and Rusty describe the exact process to you. He said it's about 45 minutes long. I have not listened to it yet because obviously I just got the message about an hour and a half ago, but it will be up soon. So for those of you guys who are fans of the Question and Answer podcast, you're going to get a new episode. So we'll continue to put the live show on the Question and Answer podcast feed, but there should be new episodes coming out. Eric says they're ready to do monthly.
Nice.
So I actually put them out monthly. So that'll be very exciting, Tim. I'm very excited. 2020 is already starting off.
Right.
Exciting for me. So we got a lot of Merry Christmases. TXJYT says Merry Christmas, y'all. Danny says Merry Christmas. Glad to see you guys again. Glad to see you again, Danny.
Yes.
So glad to see everybody here, in fact. So, but Tim, I think
no question. So we want to get started.
I was about to say, I think we're pretty much caught up with the live chat. So let's go ahead and move into some questions. Now, Tim, we actually have some follow-ups.
Oh, good.
And so we're going to move into the follow-ups before we get into any questions. And so, Tim, this first one is from Michael. Now, Michael sent a question about his junior pack, basically wondering what he should do, whether he should do 60-in-1 route.
I remember this question.
Board repair or replace monitors and stuff like this. And so this was him writing back basically to let us know what happened. And he said, just wanted to let you know I did get it up and running with a Pac-Man to JAMMA adapter. And Tim, I think we had mentioned that he could use that since it was a conversion.
Right.
If it was a dedicated, you could not. But since it was a conversion, he could use that. He says he puts the 60-in-1 in the cabinet. He also put an LCD monitor in it as my chassis needs a cap kit and a new flyback, which I intend on doing soon. So I have the original monitor in it because I want it as original as possible. Thanks for all the help. And Tim, there's nothing wrong with putting an LCD in there as a temporary solution because Tim, nobody wants a down game.
Right.
So a down game doesn't get any love, doesn't get any play. So I mean, if you want to take the monitor out, get you a nice arcade mountable LCD, put it in its place temporarily while you can get that CRT fixed, then at least you have a working game in the before, and you don't have to fix the CRT right now. You can wait a little bit on it.
That's the actual picture of his game right
there? Yes,
there?
that is the actual picture. So let's let it back up here. So these are the pictures of his game sim. So he has a Junior Pac-Man there. He's got a Miss Pac-Man and a Mario Brothers. And it looks like the Mario Brothers also has an LCD in it, Tim, just looking at it.
Looks cool.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, and it looks like that's a wide body, correct?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
very.
so I mean, it doesn't have it's not the blue cabinets that we think of with Nintendo, so. But definitely some cool stuff there. So Michael, congrats on getting that Junior Pac-Man back up and running, and hopefully you can get the CRT fixed very soon and get all that great Junior Pac-Man gameplay going in its original form.
Yeah, and we should say that we really enjoy the follow-ups, and I'm sure you guys enjoy it too because you probably remember that question. So some of you guys, if we've helped you some way, or even if you're still battling, we love the follow-up questions and responses because it kind of updates us and this lets us know that we did some good.
Yes, exactly. And Millstar Electronics says Mario Brothers wide body cabinet. Millstar, is that Mark? Mark, is that you? I would like Mark, our Facebook moderator.
Okay.
I don't know if it is or not. If it's you, just say it's me. But I think it is. But I always forget. So, but if it's you, let us know. But yeah, I mean, I think it was a wide body there, Tim, because I mean, I used to have one of those as well. I mean, that's a great cabinet. Love that cabinet. Hard to find sometimes the artwork for the wide bodies, but a nice cabinet, easy to play side by side and everything like that. So let us continue here with Greg. Tim, another follow-up, and you may remember that Greg was asking us about laminate.
I do remember this question.
Yeah, so
I heard this question.
Hey guys, just wanted to thank you for your help on and for answering my questions. I'm a big fan. Just wanted to share with you what you helped me build and say thanks. This is my latest build from scratch. It's a 20-year reunion theme arcade with some custom design graphics. I used the 20-year PacGal.zip ROM so I could have the correct game on it. I also did want to note that getting the buttons to work on that ROM was extremely difficult, but I figured it out using the main menu and input config. And Tim, you got to see this thing. It is beautiful. He says, I also have a button hotkey to go to the games list, power button, and USB ports in front. Wouldn't look half as good without your guys' help and tutorial vids. And so there you go, Tim. I mean, this thing looks very sharp.
Yeah.
I mean, and I love how he did the bezel on the screen as well. But Tim, if you told me that was a dedicated cabinet, I'd probably believe you.
I think so. It
yeah,
looks
I mean,
really good.
Exactly, just because of the way that he laid everything out. So it looks sharp.
I like the midway sticker at the bottom and on the control panel too.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that cool looking?
Oh, it looks great. And so, like I said, he really he really did a great job, I think, with all of that stuff, and it just looks really nice. So now he continues here, Tim. He actually had a question, too. And we should mention that Greg has his own YouTube channel, The Regzer Show. Okay. So if you guys want to check out some of his work, I believe he did a video on that cabinet. So if you want to see that cabinet, you can. But Greg says, can you help me understand JAMMA in layman's terms? I hear the word JAMMA thrown around with JAMMA harness, JAMMA board, JAMMA this, JAMMA that, OEM board with JAMMA, etc. I'm sure this has been asked before, but Google isn't the greatest for noobs understanding JAMMA, especially when I am an emulation guy. So Tim, obviously this is something that we cover on getting familiar with the JAMMA standards in one of our videos, but for those people who may have not seen that, or maybe you just want it from the barest levels, well, explain to us what JAMMA is.
I can kind of remember back when we first started collecting and going to auctions, people would talk a lot about JAMMA, and I just kind of nod my head, and I kind of understood, but I didn't really. You know, it was like, but it's really simple. It's basically an acronym,
right?
And it stands for well, let's do a little bit of history lesson. Back in the early '80s and stuff, a lot of boards were not interchangeable. In fact, if you have a Miss Pac-Man board, you don't want to hook that up into a Donkey Kong cabinet or so forth. A lot of them won't fit because the wiring connector is longer. So what they did was JAMMA actually stands for the Japan Amusement Machine and Marketing Association. So that's what the JAMMA. And I've actually heard it called different things, but I believe that is the correct one.
But some people say Japan, Japanese. I mean,
Japanese
amusement
Machine
I've heard, and Marketing Association.
Yeah. So what it boiled down to,
I think I've heard Amusement Machine and Manufacturers Association. I don't know.
Right.
It's some variation of that.
That's why you also hear the term the JAMMA standard. In other words, what they did was they kind of standardized how the wiring should be done to games so that you could switch boards, you could trade out games. Really, it was born out of necessity as much as anything, because people were like, they were getting these games and they wanted to convert them to something else, but then they'd have to rewire everything. This made conversions, especially I think about a lot when the fighting games came along and stuff, you could really convert a game in an afternoon and have a new game.
Right.
And for the operator, this was a real dream. In fact, did you see the thing that Pat Dennis did about Mr. Do? It was crazy, and how it was when they come up with the later versions, how that they were kits that were sold for like $300. So can you imagine having that game in an arcade, spending $2,000 or $3,000 on a brand new arcade, or $300, and you got a brand new game on a kit? Well, no brainer, right? So these were great things to happen. So basically, it's the edge connectors or the wiring and how it's wired. So if it's wired JAMMA, for the most part, you can swap out. Now there's a JAMMA Plus, which, you know, you have like extra buttons and things like that. The main thing you have to watch is that you don't hook it up backwards. We've done that in the past and stuff, but
a good harness will specify whether you're solder side or part side. And so, you know, if you have a good harness in there, the edge connector itself will specify this is the part side, this is the solder side. You can plug them in backwards. The key, though, if the harness is a good harness, it will have a key in that pin 7 position, which will prevent you from plugging it in backwards. But not all harnesses have that key. That's something to keep in mind.
It's kind of like, think of it this way. Let's imagine in your house, when we went to Europe last summer and went to Germany, my wife got her hairdryer out and she's like, what do? I can't plug it in because the voltage was different, you know? So can you imagine that if every plug in your house was different and you could only plug certain appliances into certain ones? Well, no, all the plugs in your house are all the same, whether you live in Europe or whether you live here in the United States.
That's why it's a standard.
That's a standard that has been set that says so much voltage comes out here. And that's what they did with JAMMA. They made a standard that says the voltage should go here, wiring should go here, buttons should go here, up and down would be here, and it just made it so much easier. So I hope that maybe that's one way to explain it. I know you got a slide, Jonathan, that you'll show.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and throw it up here and read it. So JAMMA stands for Japan Amusement Machine and Marketing Association. But Tim, I've also heard Japanese Amusement Machine and Manufacturers Association.
Yes, I have
so
heard
I'm
that.
not sure which one it is per se. And this was from Wikipedia says this, but I've seen it both ways. So all we know is that it was something that the Japanese manufacturers came up with in order to standardize the wiring, like you mentioned. In 1985, this association introduced a wiring standard, which is why we call it the JAMMA standard. We just don't call it JAMMA, involving a 56 edge connector, pin edge connector. And that's 28 on each side, Tim. So 56 pins in all, 28 on each side. That standard was quickly adopted by the majority of game manufacturers and is still in use today. There are still games today, Tim, that use JAMMA, right?
Right.
So PCBs that use the JAMMA standard can be swapped out very easily with little to no modification needed to the wiring of the cabinet. Before JAMMA, each game manufacturer had their own wiring schemes, which made cabinet conversions extremely difficult for operators. So if you go back, and a lot of people, if you have anything before that 1985, and even stuff after 1985, some stuff had their own pinouts. And so in order to know, like, you know, where to wire up the video signals, where to wire up your controls, you had to have the pinouts for that particular game. When you converted the game, you had to repin it. You may even have to put on a whole new edge connector.
Right.
Depending.
A lot of times you had to, because you might only have 22 pins.
Right.
Or versus 26 or something, you know. Of course, double that with the...
But with JAMMA,
56.
the standard means that pretty much every JAMMA board is compatible with a JAMMA cabinet for the most part. Now, there are variations on that. Tim, we talk about kick harnesses, which extends the number of buttons that you can have. Some variations of that include Neo Geo, which has a slightly different JAMMA variation. But Tim, even in those variations, a lot of times you can still plug those boards up and get video.
Yeah, and it won't
get voltage,
hurt or damage the board by doing it. You plug some boards into another game, you could actually destroy or hurt the board.
Right, but plugging a JAMMA board into a JAMMA harness in almost every case will not hurt the board. It may not function properly based on, you know, the difference is in the wiring, basically on the controls, Tim. It seems like that's where it varies the most, is on the control side of the board. But for the most part, you should be able to plug it up and test a board in pretty much any JAMMA cabinet. There may be some slight exceptions to that, but for the most part, it is a standard that is pretty well maintained and that people adhere to.
Now, the standard is there, but we've also done a video about what is the best one, because you do have to watch. Now, there are different kinds of JAMMA harnesses, just like there are different kinds of cars and different types of shoes, sneakers to wear. So we definitely recommend a one with the thicker wires that are soldered on there. There are cheap ones, so be careful. Just because it meets the standard only means that wires are in a certain place. Maybe not be very good quality.
Correct. And Danny actually, came up here and said, I got a question as to the best place to buy JAMMA harness that has English instead of Japanese. I think that leads into into something.
Have we released this video?
We have released this video.
Okay.
So we do have a video on what we think is the best JAMMA harness. It's sold by HollandComputers.com or RetroArcade.us. But you guys can get the Holland Computers JAMMA harness, which does have English on it. On both sides.
Right.
Most of the harnesses you see either have Chinese or Japanese or some
or
other...
a sticker on one side and nothing on the other side.
Right. So the Holland Computers one is always the one we're going to recommend for JAMMA harnesses, because the gauge of the wiring is very good, and it is actually printed in English on there to make it easier. Somebody mentioned it is keyed. I mentioned that too. Pin 7 is typically a key. Tim, some JAMMA harnesses do not have a physical key in that position, which means you can plug it in backwards if you're not careful.
Very, very easily.
The Holland Computers does have a physical key there, which means you can't plug it in backwards. But if you buy a cheap JAMMA harness, there is a chance that you may not have that key in pin 7, the actual, like a physical key block there that prevents you from plugging it in backwards. So again, if you're going to buy a JAMMA harness, it's good to get one that has the key in pin 7. So. Let's see what else we got here, Tim. I'm going to go back to...
go ahead. It's good to kind of, once you do a lot of wiring, you'll eventually kind of memorize it. But we always keep a sheet nearby. Don't trust your memory. Trust, so when it's written on the harness, though, wow, that makes it 10 times easier. You don't have to look it up. You don't have to get a piece of paper out. We used to keep a chart on the wall. Those type of things go away when it's printed right on the harness.
A chart that you can print out if you go to arcaderepairtips.com/jamma.html.
Yeah.
So you guys can actually get that printed out. It's very handy. So let's see what else we got here. Let's see. John Mellon says, where can I get an 8-bit harness for my Shinobi Wonder Boy? So it depends. Like, I'm not sure what the pinout is for that, for the Shinobi board off the top of my head, but you can get pretty much any kind of edge connector
Right.
You know, you can find like the edge connectors at Mauser and DigiKey will sell the individual edge connectors. So if you know how many pins your edge connector is on like Shinobi, for instance, you can get an edge connector that has that many pins on it. And then the 156, right? 0.156 pins in the edge connector are the ones that you want. And so if you buy the edge connector and then buy the pins, crimp the wires.
He may be looking for where to just purchase one.
Right.
And not, we're talking about building one.
Correct.
I'm not sure if anybody sells that, but somebody in the chat room may know. If you do know somebody,
Arcade Shop, I wouldn't be surprised.
Sometimes, or sometimes
Arcade Parts and Repairs, another one.com.
Yeah, and some of our suppliers would build you one for a charge if you asked them to.
Yeah, I mean it's not hard to do it yourself because
Right.
I mean it's basically just crimping the 0.156 pins onto the wires and inserting them into the edge connector, Tim. But you know, if you're not comfortable with that, I'm sure that they're, like Tim mentioned, one of our suppliers would be happy to help you out with that. And you know, if you have the pinouts though and you know the number of pins, it's not a hard process at all. So. Okay, let's see what else we got. Let's see. Rick and Morty Pinball, somebody says, discuss. Maybe in the discussion section we'll talk about that. Tim, that kind of broke yesterday really quick, so I didn't make a slide for it, unfortunately. So text JYT. Maybe we'll get it in here in a little bit. But yeah, so.
Is it a new Stern?
Yeah, Spooky.
Spooky.
So
okay.
Spooky announced
That would
Rick
make
and
more
Morty.
sense.
Yeah, exactly. So, but maybe we'll get to
Nice.
that here in a little bit. So, what else we got here? Okay, and everybody said like Neo Geo is slightly different. That is correct. So Neo Geo, there are some that take variations. The multi-games,
and like the elf boards that you
let's
have.
say Game Elf boards and the Pandora's box
Right,
are different as well.
Some of them you have to add a ground. Some you take a ground away.
Yeah, just
but for the most
add
part,
another control to the bottom.
But that's one of the great things about it is it's like almost like everything. I'll tell you guys a funny story. We were working on a game at Chuck E. Cheese one time, and I was trying to teach my A-Tech about that, how that would work. And I had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle board JAMMA, and I plugged it in. It came up on the screen. He was like, "What?" It flipped, kind of freaked him out. He was like, "How are you playing? You know, how are you playing Ninja Turtles on Frenetic Fred or whatever?" I said, "Because it's JAMMA," and that's how I knew. Also helps a lot troubleshooting. I knew exactly which wires were the 5 and the 12 and stuff like that. So it really does help.
Another reason why we like the 16-1 board for testing, and because 16-1 boards are cheap. If you blow one up, you're not blowing up anything special, and they are JAMMA. So, I mean, if you're looking for something to keep around as a test board, the 16-1 boards are actually really good to keep around for test boards.
If you've watched our videos, you also hear us talk about 8-liners because they're JAMMA.
Yeah, a lot of 8-liners are JAMMA.
A lot of those boards would work just for testing.
Yeah, and you can they actually make boards for testing, but those are kind of high. And if you have something that has like an input, like the 61 board has the input test and stuff like that, then it kind of serves the same purpose.
It makes it easy too on the 61 because you can plug in a computer monitor or something to it.
Exactly. So there's a lot of benefits to the 60-1 boards, but the 8-liner boards are good too, and you can find them cheaper usually than 60-1 boards.
Right.
So that's something to keep in mind. Let's see. One Pawn Star says, "Hey guys, I'm having trouble with a Wells Gardner K7000 with adjustment coil. It won't turn for me. I can't find anywhere to buy a new one. Any ideas?" Yeah, Tim, unfortunately, getting width coils for the K7000 has become kind of a challenge.
Okay.
So now what you can try is you can try a width kit. Okay, which is something that you may try. So we've talked about this before, and the real BobRoberts.net has a great article on width kits, which are basically replacing the polypropylene capacitors that are on the chassis itself.
Right.
So you could try a width kit, but unfortunately, finding the width coil, Tim, is very, very tricky nowadays.
Right, and so I know that you could check with some of our arcade buddies that repair monitors. Sometimes they might. Your best bet sometimes is finding an old chassis that doesn't work or somebody has and robbing that part off of there, because they don't really go freeze up like you're talking about where you can't turn them at all. They're basically no good, and the more you try, a lot of times you just end up breaking them.
Right.
We have heard of people, kind of cleaning them and stuff and getting that to loosen up, but and then I have seen other people just solder onto something else, the wires underneath or something. It's just, the problem is getting something that'll mount in there.
Right.
Not something that'll work, just something that'll mount. And so, but check with our guys and look for those K7000s on eBay and places where they're for sale. A lot of times that won't be the problem. People will just replace with a...
like one of the universals.
Yeah, they'll just replace it with a universal or whatever. But the width coil, 9 out of 10 of them are good.
Sure. Sounds good. Let's see. Let's see. Wancho O says, "Hey guys, I just found out about your channel because I need help with some things. Thanks for all the informative videos." So that's good too. Thanks for being here. We love having everybody here tonight. And Tim, we got a good group of people.
And you're welcome to ask a question in the chat room. Although I will have to say that this font is a lot smaller than the old font.
You think it's smaller?
I think it is. Well, maybe you can read it better. I should have brought my glasses.
Yeah, it may be hard to read. I don't know. They've gone with the dark theme too. So it's dark. It's black on white instead of white on black like what we had before.
Right.
And so I think that makes it a little bit harder as well. So, but anyway.
Okay.
Let us continue on here, Tim. Man, we're just talking about all the tech side of things tonight. We're pulling the curtain back for you guys. So there we go. It's Christmas. Why not?
Yeah.
So there we go. Let us continue on here, Tim, with Seth. And Seth says, "I have a question about the Miss Pac-Man Galaga 20th Anniversary cabinet," which, who was it? Greg just did like a very nice model.
Right.
But Seth actually has a real cabinet, apparently. "The game powers on fine and the screen works. It shows the demo, but the buttons and joysticks don't work. Pushing them doesn't make anything happen. I've unplugged it, cycled the on-off button. I've tried to bring it into test mode, but none of those worked. I opened the back door to inspect the wiring. From a cursory look, all the connections are secure, and the soldering is tight. Any advice on what you think the issue is is appreciated." Any advice on what you think the issue may be is appreciated.
Gotcha.
I can read. Okay, thanks, Seth. So there we go. So let's go ahead and talk about that, Tim. So we have Seth. He's got a Miss Pac-Man Galaga 20th Anniversary, a very popular arcade game, but none of his controls work. And Tim, this is a common question we get a lot, and we like to cover it. So Tim, why don't you go ahead and walk Seth through some troubleshooting here.
We'll start real simple. For one, if the game isn't in free play, without being coined up, or it won't do anything. So I know that may sound rudimentary, but believe it or not, I have caught myself going, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Oh well, I'm so used to putting my games in free play when they're not."
Sure.
So you can try to coin it up if it requires one, or you can jumper that switch and see if just by giving credits, because I'm assuming though that he's getting credits and the game won't start or do anything. That's what usually happens. In fact, I had one in my garage not long ago. You remember You came over and helped me wire, same game, and a broken ground wire from the harness up. It kind of got pinched where the control panel sets up in there, and there was just a tiny break. You really could barely even see it with your eyes, but when we tested with a meter, we found a short. And that one wire caused everybody the stuff that wouldn't work. So I'm a little concerned that you can't get it into test mode either, unless that ground is connected.
I was about to say, if that's a shared ground with everything else, then that would make sense.
Which it could definitely be. So what you do is get your meter, put it on continuity, and start checking those ground wires from your harness to the endpoints and 2 points in between. You probably got a break in your ground wire, and that's why it's not recognizing, it's not seeing it, because it doesn't understand what you're doing or pushing or hitting, because that circuit is not completed.
And can we talk about JAMMA for a second? I mean, obviously we've been talking about it, but the ground wires that are at the lower end of the chassis that are near the power, those ground wires go to the power supply. Right. Okay, the ground wires that are at the far end in pin 2728, those are the ones that go to your controls. Some people get those mixed up, or they try to jumper off of the 1 and 2 pins, or they off of the grounds at the top, and I forget what number they are off the top of my head. Instead of just using pin 2728 grounds, pin 2728 grounds are there for your controls. Okay, so make sure when you're wiring it that you put the pin 2728 ground wires going to your control panel and going through your daisy chain. Okay? Yeah. The other ones are made for your power supply. They're meant to go to your power supply. So you can jumper off of them as long as they're making a good connection to the power supply, but we don't recommend it. It's not really the way it was designed. Right. And some people will do that. We've seen it before, but that's what pins 2728 are for. It's for that output ground going to all of your controls. So make sure that you wire it as such. Anything else here, Tim, before I bring up the slide?
No, we don't really know much of a history. Like, did you buy it and it wasn't working, or did it just quit one day? And then, I mean, there's probably a rare exception, where you could have all your grounds and everything is working. Maybe something went wrong internally with your board. It's just so rare. Most of the time, it is a ground wire, because they're daisy chained, and all it takes. Think of it like this. I'm going with a lot of examples tonight, because this one is perfect. I just put up my lit Christmas tree, and guess what?
You had a strand out.
Right in the middle, you know. It's like, wasn't working. My wife is flipping out, and I'm looking at her, and she goes, well, look how none of the lights work. And I'm like, sweetie, it's a bad bulb. Once you find the last good one, the next one you replace that bulb. She goes, how do you know it's that one? I said, because it doesn't go on past that. That's where the buck stops right there. We actually found where when we put the tree together, we had hit the wire.
Oh, there you go.
And I'm like, oh, it's simple fix. We got this. You know, and then, of course, all I did was just kind of rudimentary, plug that, get a butt connector, and fix it. And then all the lights left. She's like, oh my gosh, you fixed it. You know, and then I'm like this big hero. And I'm like, you don't know how many times we've done this on an arcade game.
You used the butt connector, huh?
Right.
Not solder and seal?
No, I didn't even
Not
have
a wire nut?
that's all I had. It was
okay.
quick. I just went strip, click, and it was fixed. And she was like, wow. But anyway, that's somewhere simpler. Like you can think of that, how each light is daisy chained, and when one doesn't work, or wherever it stops. So sometimes you got to find, like you may have some buttons working, but not all of them. And so trace down that wire to where, okay, I've got continuity here. Oh, I don't have it here. There's your problem. Or you can even go backwards sometimes. It's easier.
There you go. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up this real quick, the slide. Control issues like you're describing can be caused by several things. First off, make sure that your game is either on free play or that you have inserted a coin if it requires one. Most games will not let you use the controls until you have inserted a coin or entered a coin, if on coin play, and press the start button. Make sure you are fulfilling these requirements. Happens a lot, Tim. Sometimes people don't. The most common reason for non-working controls is a break in the ground wire daisy chain. Most arcade games use a common ground wire for all control switches. If this wire breaks, no controls will work past the breaking point, like Tim mentioned with his great example of Christmas lights. We also have a video on connecting ground wires on a control panel, which you should see. But Tim, I kind of threw this picture up here as an example of a ground wire daisy chain, as you can see. So you can see that the wire, the ground wire is coming into the switch on the bottom, and then you daisy chain it to the next one, daisy chain it to the next one, and it goes on and on and on for all the controls. So so that's how they're connected. But as you can see, if you cut, like let's say we cut that wire coming in, none of those buttons would work.
None of the three would work. But let's say only the top one wasn't working. Well, then it's probably between the second one or the middle one and the top one, right?
Correct, exactly.
So that's kind of one way to troubleshoot like that. But if none of them work, then we suspect that one wire coming in is bad.
Absolutely. So Seth, hopefully answers your question. Let us know exactly what you end up doing to fix the issue, and if there's any more help that we can provide you, please let us know. Okay, Tim, we have Danny up here in the live chat. He says, I've been going through my Vapor TRX arcade and everything on it, but have noticed it's not the original supply, I guess power supply, that's supposed to be in it, and I want original, but I think they have cut the clips off. Any way to fix without putting a new wiring harness in it? So if they use like a standard power supply or even a connector style power supply, I don't know if you've got an ATX style power supply or like a traditional switching power supply.
Right.
I mean, you should be able to technically cut off either the connector or cut off the fork terminals or round terminals that you have and put the clips that you need for the original power supply in there. I mean, it's possible to do that. So, or the connector. So, I mean, that would be the way to do it instead of having to redo the entire cabinet. So here's the deal though, Tim, when it comes to power supplies, there are some games where I do care about the original power supply, such as Williams games like we've talked about before, Tim. But there are other games where the switching power supplies work just as well. A great example are Pac-Man arcades. I feel like in a Pac-Man arcade in particular, I feel like having a switching power supply is more reliable.
Yes.
Because the AC voltage is coming from the transformer. You've probably seen a lot of Miss-Pac and Pac-Man boards that have little fried pieces up where the voltage is. And that's a lot of times because it got like a little bit of a power spike or something like that and it burnt up those connectors. Happens a lot. And so in those cases, I think a switching power supply is actually safer and better for Pac-Man cabinets. Now, again, a lot of people like original. There's nothing wrong with going original if that's what you want. But the exceptions for using the original are kind of few and far between for me. It's only certain games I want the original supplies in. The MCR style games, Tim, obviously, and then stuff like Williams games. But for the most part, I think in a lot of cases I would rather have a modern power supply just because they are usually more reliable than what you get out of the original, unless the original provides something that the replacement doesn't. And like I said, in Williams games is a great example, as Ken has always talked about, Tim, with us, that on a Williams game, if with a switching power supply, the voltage does not drop it slowly declines, and so in that slow decline, the processor can write garbage to some of the memory locations, which can lead to data corruption. And so that's why we don't like using switching power supplies in Williams games. But like I said, in a Pac-Man game, usually using a switching power supply is a better solution than using the AC transformer in that game. Right. And then like Centipede, Tim, though, I tend to keep just because it's got the AR board in it. Anything with like its own style power supply like that, I'm probably going to keep. But if it's a transformer-based game that actually does the conversion on the board, I'm probably less likely to keep that. So it just really depends on you. If you want to do that, though, I think you can do it without wiring the harness, rewiring the entire harness. I think you can just either snip the connector or the 4 terminals that are going to the current power supply, and then put the connector or put whatever clips that you need for the old power supply. That makes sense. Did I miss anything?
No,
okay.
I'm in agreement.
Okay.
I think you're right. In fact, I probably get, when I see a switcher's been put in there, a lot of times I'm more comfortable than I am with the really old power supplies. There are some older Redemption games that use some really crazy voltages, though, and you can't always do that. Just make sure that if it uses a standard 5 and 12 volts, maybe a -5, sometimes it's even better, in my opinion, to go ahead and replace those.
Exactly. So, well, hopefully that answers your question, Danny. If you have any other thoughts or anything, just please let us know in the live chat. We'll be happy to follow those up. YouTube Punk is there. He says, hello there.
Hey, YouTube Punk.
So he's here. Let's see what else we got. Text JYT says, I like to keep my games as original as possible so I don't change the power supply for a switching power supply. I hear a lot of people say they change them just for safety, but I feel the old ones are safe as long as they're taken care of. What are your thoughts? In most cases, we do like the original power supply, but like I said, there are a lot of cases where the switching is just fine. If it has the original power supply in it, I'm not going to take it out to put a switching power supply until it dies. Right, exactly. So if the original power supply is working, we will leave it in there as long as possible. In a lot of cases, we will repair it. Like I said, if it's an AR board, Tim, is a great example. Atari AR style boards, we will repair those. What is the Midway MCR, right? Like the MCR style boards, like in Tron and things, we will repair those. But like I said, in like a Pac-Man where you're getting an AC transformer and then conversion on the board, it's just easier to send it to DC voltage than to do the conversion on the board. It seems to work better. So there's a lot of games where having the original power supply doesn't make as much of a difference. But if it's there and we can repair it, we'd rather do the repair.
Agreed.
So there you go. Let's see.
Great question, though. I like it.
There you go. Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, everybody's different, too. I mean, if you're, a lot of people will say, well, I feel like it runs better. It's kind of like we take the old argument of having like a 1950 car with a 2019 engine in it. Right. I mean, it's not original, but will it run really good? Probably.
Exactly. I always use the example of the 50s car with a 2019 engine in it. Nobody else would know but me, hardly. True. But some people would want to have it original, but I wouldn't drive it to California. Sure. But in the new engine, I would trust it that far. Sure. So it's kind of like there's reliability and things, but by all means, if, Stan was always really good about keeping everything as original as possible. And so I admire people that can do that. Sometimes just not very practical.
Exactly. So
I'd rather have a driving car than one sitting in my driveway that was original.
Yeah, with an engine that had problems. Right. So I understand. So it's kind of like we were talking about with LCDs, right? Yeah. It's like LCD, like what was the first? I can't remember. The first guy with the Junior Pac-Man. Yeah. Kind of the same thing. It's like he had an LCD. He put an LCD in it. He's got a working game. He can fix that CRT anytime. But you put that 2019 engine in there. You set the 1950 engine aside. You say, I'll fix that 1950 engine later. Right. But I got a running car now. And so, you never know. So sometimes it can be a temporary fix. But anyway, let us continue on here with Chris. Chris says, hi, Tim and Jonathan.
Hello, Chris.
I had a recent problem with my Centipede in which all the mushrooms line up on the left side of the screen, and the sound is completely muffled. I would like to repair the arcade machine, but I'm considering options to fix it inexpensively. So that's the key word, inexpensively. Each option has pros and cons, asking you guys what would be the best solution if you could fill in the unknowns. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, Chris. So, Tim, guess what? It's time to ask the audience. Okay. You're gonna use your lifeline here?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a lifeline out and ask the audience. You know what's funny though? I'm like thinking, What I would do first is really set a high score. If all the mushrooms were on one side, wouldn't that make this game really easy?
Well, it makes me wonder, is it a board issue? I mean, if it was a board issue, I guess then you could get away with that, right?
Yeah, I'm like,
but if it's a monitor issue, I mean, you're trying to play it in like this much room or whatever. But it's kind of hard to tell just from his description. But here's the deal, guys. He actually sent the 4 options he's considering.
Okay.
And so what I did was I assigned a color to each one.
Okay.
So all you have to do is reply with the color. Okay, so again, we have Chris. He's trying to fix his Centipede. He has all the mushrooms lined up on one side of the screen, and he has sent us 4 options that he is considering. Now, Tim.
It's kind of made our work easy for us.
In a way, yes. and like I said, it gets the live chat to chime in here. So here's the deal. All you have to do is reply with the color that you think that Chris should go with. Now, keep in mind, Tim, inexpensively.
Right.
Inexpensively is what we're wanting to focus on. That is the hard part. Okay. So all you have to do is say it's red, yellow, green, blue.
Okay.
Okay.
Show them up. Let's
RGB,
go.
All
RGB.
RGB
Y.
Y, exactly. So here we go. The red option. I call this the red option.
Okay.
Replace with RetroPie and have it boot in the Centipede. Now, Tim, he says no good way to convert the HDMI to VGA to CGA cleanly. There's signal loss, blur your image. What about converting the existing trackball to integrate the USB? Would need to find that one that would fit the Centipede mount and need an amplifier for audio to speakers. So he's already broken down some of the challenges with the red option.
Right.
Okay, so those are some of the challenges with going with the RetroPie.
Well, basically fix the screen.
Right.
But it does present some challenges with controls and stuff.
Okay, the yellow option keeps the signal in CGA so I can use the existing arcade monitor. Existing trackball will also work. Okay. We'll need Centipede to JAMMA converter or rewire, right?
Okay.
So, and then the green option, fix the existing board. On eBay, it's roughly $150 to repair, which, Tim, I would say is about fair.
Right.
Okay, so, I mean, $150 to repair. You may be able to find somebody that's going to fix it for you cheaper, but
that's
not
sending
much.
it off for repair and waiting and getting it back.
And then we have the blue option, find another board. Of course, it is becoming difficult to find a good working board. So, Tim, we have red, yellow, green, and blue. What option do you say for Chris, and what option does the audience say for Chris?
All
Okay,
right.
So here we go, Tim. What do you think? Red, yellow, green, or blue? Now, keep in mind, inexpensively.
Right.
Key word.
That is the hardest part because naturally we would always recommend that he just fix his board and send it off for repair. But I understand times are tight. It's Christmas time. You got
Chris is here tonight. He's saying the yellow option. So yellow option. We'll talk about that here in a second. So what do you think, Tim?
That would be my choice. Would be for the money. Would have been the yellow option, which it would be to put a 60 and 1 in it.
Right. So here's the deal, too, about the yellow option, and Tim, I'm probably leaning more that way, too, is that the yellow option, you don't have to change out the wiring.
Right.
Okay, you
That's
can leave,
a big plus.
exactly, you can just buy the adapter, the Centipede to JAMMA adapter, and then buy a 60 and 1 board. So you're out probably less than $100 for both those things.
Okay.
Okay, I'm roughly estimating.
Yes.
Probably about,
with shipping.
Right, with shipping. So you're talking about probably less than $100 for that. And here's the deal: you could get your board fixed at some point, and then just unplug that and plug in the other one.
There you go.
Okay, and so I think in
when
most
you get
cases,
your income tax or something, you can
exactly you can get your board fixed. And so I think the yellow option may be the temporary option with a long-term option on the green.
Yeah, if you got family coming in for Christmas, this would be
so
a
I'm
quick
going to
option.
purchase the yellow and keep the green in mind. Does that make sense?
Maybe you need to show the screen again, everybody. We don't see very. Let's get some votes in here.
So RC Outdoors, obviously Chris says yellow. YouTube Punk says yellow seems the cheapest. Let's see. And those are the only people that we have chimed in. Joe just says dig in the hats.
Okay.
But the red option, Tim, somebody mentioned that you could put the video signal out through the audio on the Raspberry Pi, which I don't know much about that, but I could see that because a lot of things allow you to put out like composite video through the through an RCA style headphone jack.
Right.
And so there is a possibility that may work for the video. Okay. So then you're only out you're out basically the Raspberry Pi. I'm sure there's a board you can get that will translate the trackball to USB, but I'm not sure how much that board would be. But I bet you anything they make it. And so, I don't know how much it'd be. I mean, I estimate 30 or 40
And
bucks.
I bet that blue option is really getting hard. I bet there's not very many of them working, tested, for sale at a good price these
Exactly.
days.
So the blue option's kind of out just because of the pricing.
Right.
Blue option is out just because of the pricing. Now, somebody just said they agree with me. And Jason, so thank you. I think, like I said, I'm going to buy the yellow option and then keep the green option in mind. Is kind of the thing I'm thinking. And the reason why is because the yellow option gets me going for the cheapest amount of money. It gets my Centipede going. If I have a party coming up, and Tim, you see how clean my game room is. We had a party over here. I actually got everything working for a while. But so the thing about it is that if you're having a party and you want to get your game up and running, it's the fastest, cheapest option. Cheapest option. But here's the deal. I get that income tax back. I'm sending off my Centipede board for repair, and I'm putting it back in there.
There you go. And you can use the 60 and one.
Or if I get that big bonus, my big Christmas bonus,
right?
That's not the Cheese of the Month Club.
The Jelly of the Month.
Jelly of the Month Club.
I remember that.
Then as long as it's cash, then I may spend a little bit of that cash to get the board repaired. Because, I mean, it's still nice to have an original board, but the 60 and 1 is not a terrible option. Now, the other thing is you need to make sure that your AR board is putting out good voltage. I mean, that's kind of a given. Hopefully it is. And if it is, then the 60 and 1 setup should work fine. But if it's not, then, anyway. So Chris actually chimes in here. I actually did yellow. I used an arcade 60 and 1, which had a trackball connection. So now it will play Centipede and Millipede.
There you go.
Exactly. So you actually already did it. And I'm trying to think if there's any other trackball games on the 60.
Another thing that you could do is sell his non-working board as non-working, probably for about the price that he paid for the 60 and 1. We got helpers?
Yeah.
Santa Seltzer.
I think so. Somebody's here, but anyway. Exactly. So you could cover the cost. What you're saying is cover the cost of the 61 board.
Then you're virtually free.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's a way to think about it, too. Again, want to keep it original, though.
Sure.
So I'm keeping that board around, and I'm going to get it fixed at some point. It may not be today, may not be tomorrow. Well, it'll be soon.
Or, Chris, from what you're saying, there's got to be, if we dug a little more research, it's probably just a ROM or something that you could change and fix that board yourself too. It's probably not a
There's a lot of documentation on Centipede boards.
For sure. We didn't really have time to dig into it, but I bet you that's has somebody else has come up before, unless it was your monitor, and it doesn't sound like it was.
No, if you tried the 61, it works, and obviously the monitor is working. So in this particular case, like Tim mentioned, Centipede boards have a ton of documentation out there. The manual for Centipede is great at helping you troubleshoot things. There's a lot of people out there. It's a very simple board to work on. Schematics are very easy to read. So if you're kind of one of these people that doesn't mind digging into a little bit of the electronics side of things, like the really deep electronic side of things, then the schematic is a great learning place for Centipede because it's not like a JAMMA board that has all these little tiny connections everywhere. I mean, it's very easy, and it could be a loose solder joint. It could be a bad chip somewhere. I mean, it could be a lot of stuff, and if that's the only problem is that's all kind of squished to one side or something, it sounds like maybe something in the video section of that board, and so you may be able to, or like you said, RAM.
That's what I was saying. Now that you got your game working, you could try to fix that yourself, and that really would be it wouldn't cost too much, or you could get some ROMs burned or whatever. That's just another option I want to throw out.
There you go. But Chris went with the yellow option. Hopefully he gets the green option going soon. But thank you for writing in and sending that to us. And it was fun to kind of throw it to the live chat and kind of get their opinions as well. So now, Tim, I want to mention we got some donations.
Wow.
YouTube Punk came in, said, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, guys. Happy holidays to all. Thank you, YouTube Punk.
Thank you so much.
You're awesome. So Tim, YouTube Punk, a longtime supporter here on the Arcade Repair Tips live show. So we want to thank YouTube Punk for all of his contributions over the years.
That reminds me. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I know I'll forget. One of our listeners dropped in at Mr. Gaddy's the other day, and maybe I'll talk about that in the live show.
All right, you're talking about right now?
So,
we're taking a break right now.
Well,
no, I need to hear this. I didn't know this either.
I know, and I forgot to tell him because he'd make sure and tell Jonathan I said hi. He came in. We were so busy. And
well, he told me hi.
If you're in the live chat right now, it's Gary from Northwest Arkansas. I think Gary, if I just missed your name, I'm so sorry. But he told me that he would stop in sometime. He's an arcade repair guy. He's used our videos. The last tech tip that I had was about the little breakers.
Yes, the breakers.
He bought them based on that tip, so he's already used them. So they come in very handy. He came in on Black Friday, I was busy. I think it was Black Friday, and I could not talk to him much. And then I ended up getting to go home early, and he came back with his family, and I forgot about it. And as soon as I got a chance to jet, I did, and because I needed to do some
shopping. Everybody got some shopping done. It's Black Friday.
And I didn't get to stick around, but he said he would come back, and I said, "Well, let us know." anyway, I thought that was really cool to get to meet him, and it was fun.
So if you guys are ever in the East Texas area and you want to go by Mr. Gaddy's, there's only one Mr. Gaddy's in the East Texas area.
I did give him some gameplay. I would have hooked him up with some pizza too. So, but I'm sorry that it was just.
So
one
if somebody
of those
comes
busy
in
days.
and says, "Saw you on the live show," you get freebies,
you get some free stuff.
There you
Sure.
go. So there you go. But anyway, well, that's awesome. So awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, and he said, "Be sure and tell Jonathan hello." And he said that they now have, guys, you wouldn't believe this. Maybe he's in the audience tonight.
I don't see anybody yet.
150 classic arcade games on route in a location. So he
150 in one location?
Yeah, I think, or maybe 2 locations, something like that, like Retrocades.
Right.
Dude, he is a busy guy. He was like, he goes, in fact, I hate to take off because I'm going to come back and everything's going to be broke. And he said, but I can fix it. And so it was really cool because he's a longtime listener of the show and watched and used our videos. And I was just like, oh my gosh, he really has made a living out of this. So congratulations to him. It was great to meet him. And I've just.
Well, he got mentioned on the live show too.
Yeah,
so he got free games mentioned on the live show, and he got to meet you. Look at that.
So it was fun. At least I got to shake his hand and give him some free games. Mm-hmm. But it was just one of those times where it's like I don't think we could have been any less busy at that time. It was the wrong day. But you know what? It was fine. I did get to meet him, and I'm sorry I dodged out of there later. But I was like,
there you go. Okay, let us continue on because we were mentioning people who gave us money, Tim.
Yeah.
Text JYT, $20. Did you guys buy a set of those fuse testers we talked about last month? Tim, did you buy a set?
No, I have not purchased them yet.
Obviously, Greg did.
Yes, Greg did right away. I need to buy some.
I tell you what. I'll get you some.
Merry Christmas. Okay.
We got money now. I was about to say we got money now. I can throw some your way. And Tim will have his official review next month.
Yeah, we'll do that. I'll buy them and I'll take them to work and we'll test them out.
There we go. And then RC Outdoors Chris, who we just covered his question, also gave us $10. Thank you, Chris, for that. That is awesome. Guys, we appreciate all the support. You guys are awesome. Tim, obviously we wouldn't do the live show if it wasn't for great audience members like you guys and viewers and listeners and everybody else.
Yeah, that's what really makes it unique because we set the stage, Jonathan. You work so hard getting all that together, but it's really the live chat to me that makes this a lot of fun because we don't know what question is going to get thrown at us. We also get a lot of help sometimes. When I get stumped or just having a brain fart and can't remember something, a lot of guys will chip in, and so we really do appreciate. That's what it's about. It's about a community.
Exactly.
I want you to fix your game. I want to help you. Sometimes we need a little help too, and stuff changes, vendors change, times change. Goodness gracious! So anyway,
you've been doing this since what? 2008, right?
Yeah, long time.
2006, right?
Right.
2006. So golly, I can't even keep up when we open.
Going on 14 years. It'll be 14 years next year.
Or is it 2008? I can't remember. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
I have to look at it. It's been a long time. So it's a blur now. After you have kids.
Oh, we're old as you two.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And that wouldn't have sounded that bad, but my kids have never known non-YouTube probably.
That's
it's
exactly.
Anyway.
There you go. So, and Louis also is here tonight, Tim, and he says thanks
Louis.
for the donations, too. I'm going to have to get Louis something nice for Christmas with all these donations.
I think so.
Louis, you're going to have to, we'll get you a little something. So, Louis, guys, does so much. Him and Mark, they post so much, and it's all volunteer for them. We can't say enough good things about Mark and Louis. So, thank you, guys. And same with Rusty and Eric.
Yes.
I mean, that's all volunteer work on their part. I mean, Tim, I always told him if you need equipment, if you need things, like let me know. Mm-hmm. And we bought them equipment, and Eric just goes out and buys his own equipment and then sends me back the equipment. I'm like, I can buy you equipment, but he likes having his own stuff. I don't blame him. So, but I just want to thank the entire team here, guys. And Tim, it's just Christmas time. I'm feeling it. So thank everybody.
I see a question.
So we'll get it here. Danny says, speaking of the 16-1 board, I have a Frogger cabinet that has one in it. I've been having problems with it. You turn it on, it's stuck in demo mode, and even check the settings. Almost think it's a bad board. And Text JYT says, check the dip switches. There is a dip switch sometimes, Tim, that will prevent you from going into the game. I forget what it is. So make sure you have all your dip switches set right. But also we've seen this problem when there's a switch stuck down.
Yes.
So if you've wired your buttons wrong,
right,
to where you've wired like one to the ground and one to the normally closed. I've seen it happen like when one of those switches is stuck. So check all your switches, make sure they're actually on normally opened, and make sure they're not depressed.
Right.
Okay, because if the switch is actually pressed down, like let's say the button part got stuck on the switch, then that's the case. So check your test buttons, check your regular buttons, make sure that no switches are down and all of them are wired correctly. Okay, because we have seen that in particular whenever that is the case. So double check all your switches. And that's what I'm going to tell you on that. I mean, I've seen that happen before. Definitely something that we've experienced. So check those. Let us know what you come back with. Let's see. Let's see here. Oh, we got some thank yous. How can I test a power box? This is from Mean Mug Williams. If the power box has a connector of some sort coming out of it, or if there's test points on the power box, that's how we usually check voltage on any power supply. So a lot of power supplies have a connector, Tim. In most cases, the connector will have black and red and yellow, and the standards for that are black is ground, red is 5 volts, yellow is 12 volts, and then you'll see like a white, sometimes that'll be -5 in most cases. So if you have a connector on there that follows that color pattern, then that would be it. Sometimes if you have a box, you may have to open it up to find the test points. So Tim, like sometimes in like TVs, for instance, there'll be a power board, and sometimes that power board will have test points on it, and so you actually have to take the case off of the TV in order to get to the test points, for instance. So there's a lot of stuff like that, but it really depends on the style of your power box. If it's ATX style, which is the vast majority of the ones that we see, then you're probably gonna have to test it with the connector.
You just unplug it.
Exactly.
Test it.
This show is underrated. That's what YouTube Punk says. I think so too. So I mean, we have the audience that we deserve. That's what I believe. We have the audience that we deserve, and you guys are the best audience ever.
Yes.
So absolutely. Let's see. Jason. Oh, check everything that has to do with the credit. That's another one with the 60-in-1 board issue. So if you have a coin switch that's down, that'll also cause that.
Exactly.
So I mean, we've seen, like I said, check all your switches. Make sure there's no switches down and that all of them are wired correctly. If you have one normally closed, it'll do it.
Yep.
100%. So
he's right. A lot of times it is a coin switch too.
If the coin switch is stuck down, so if something is like if a credit is actually, or coin switches are weird. I mean, they get so much play. A coin switch gets so much play, Tim, that sometimes a coin will just sit on it, and so you have to make sure that you don't have that, or a coin will fall on it, and the switch will maybe pop back up, but for some reason it still registers as if it's closed, which is weird. So a lot of weird stuff with coin switches. Definitely need to check that out as well. Let's see. Anyone in Central Arkansas that works on old arcade games? Tim, I think you just mentioned somebody. Yeah, I was about to say Central Arkansas. Yeah. You're saying Greg?
Yeah, he's in northwest.
Northwest Arkansas.
I'm going to look up his name.
Okay, there you go. Let's see.
We'll roll on, but...
The Rexer Show is here. We covered his follow-up just a little bit ago. He says, checking in late, working still on the West Coast, but we'll watch the replay as always. Thanks for your help. And the Rexer Show, we got a couple of other questions from you, but we just covered the ones that I had put on the outline already. Some of the other ones you asked we'll try to cover in the future show. But, Tim, I try to kind of keep it, what's the word? I try to keep things like moving and things like that.
Right.
And so, it's like we'll answer a couple of questions for you. If you send in multiple questions, a lot of times we'll delay those to later shows just to give everybody a chance to ask some questions. So let's see what else we have here. Joe says, bring the monitor TV repair guy in for an episode from time to time.
I just remember him as Gary, and he's...
Oh, Gary.
Gary.
You're saying Greg.
I said Greg?
You said Greg.
I'm sorry, Gary.
Gary.
It's Gary from Northwest Arkansas. He's like in the Springdale, up in Fayetteville area.
There you go. Let's see. Joe says, bring the monitor TV repair guy in for an episode from time to time. Tim does a great job explaining everything, but I really like that guy's experience on tube stuff. I miss Michael.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So Michael moved
to not just
Florida.
a little way. He moved all the way to Florida.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll contact him sometime.
I will
Skype
send him a message.
sometime.
Exactly. We will get him to Skype in. Michael, guys, is so much fun. Like having him and Tim and filming the stuff. If any of y'all have our DVDs, there's a lot of blooper reels. And if you've seen any of the blooper reels, like half of them are with Michael. Yeah. Michael comes off so serious.
You're right.
Like in the videos.
And it's just such a clown. Funny.
Oh, man, he's hilarious. So we love Michael. He was great. And Tim, there's nobody who knows monitor stuff better than Michael. I've never found another monitor repair guy. And we have a lot of monitor repair guys we've worked with. But Michael, I mean, he had seen everything. It's a guy who owned a TV repair shop.
Right.
So, that's what he did. It was actually his side business, but he was, golly, guy knew all sorts of stuff. Love Michael. Michael, if you're watching, we'll get together. I'll send you an email. I'm going to send him an email. I'm going to say, Merry Christmas. We'll get you on the show. We'll Skype him in. We'll figure out something. So, let's see what else we have here. Pac-Man Plus with speed up on the 60-in-1 is the best. I agree. I like Pac-Man Plus on the 60-in-1. It's good. Love the show. Great help to me. That's from Danny. Awesome, Danny. Like to hear it. YouTube Punk says 1 question per customer. No, we don't limit 1 question per customer. No. So you can it is 1 question per customer if you guys are writing in and emailing. But look, if you're in the live show, you can ask as many questions as you want. Like, if you're in the live chat, you can just ask as many as you want. What we try to do, though, is we like to keep the outline of the show moving, Tim.
Right.
And so sometimes, like, if you ask 4 or 5 questions in an email, then we may cover 1 or 2 of them, and then next month we'll cover the rest, kind of thing.
Speaking of which.
There we go. We're getting there. Hang on. Let's see what else we have here. I got to thank you. Oh, Michael is now a Florida man. That is correct.
Yes.
So we'll get together with him. He always says we can email him anytime. And when his shop closed, he called me and said, hey, you want to get this equipment? I said I'd get it back to him, and I never did. Sorry. You know, I mean, what happens, Tim, when you have kids is you turn around, it's February, you turn around again, it's June.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really what happened. I got that call, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'll give him a call after I talk to Tim. And I talked to Tim about it and just got busy.
Way to go.
Sorry, Michael. But we will contact Michael. I love talking to Michael. He's just so cool. That's all I can say. But anyway, yeah, so let's see. We'll see about getting Michael back on. It's just fun to have Michael. But anyway, speaking of Michaels, Tim, great segue. Here's a Mike. And he says, trying to fix a Sega Afterburner game and having issues with arcing around the flyback thing. I like the flyback thing. Specifically around the red anode wire, so he knows what it is. Also, it doesn't seem to be energizing the tube. I'm new to this, but used to do some electrical comm repair in the military, so I'm hoping it comes back to me. Thanks for any help. Now, Tim, we got some arcing here, which is never a good thing.
Right.
So, what do you want for Michael? I see you laughing.
Well,
I've got a picture on the slide.
We'll
show that here in a second.
We'll describe what arcing is at first. What is arcing?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, I heard that term, but until you see it, think of the old Frankenstein movie where they hit the switch and it's alive, and then the lightning bolts are coming back. The electricity bolts that looks like little lightning is arcing, and of course, when you see that, it can be very scary. So where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's arcing, there's problems. It's a good thing to not play or do much with it until we actually thought arcing was kind of cool, and we enjoyed sitting there watching one arc one time until it shot a flame about that far at us.
You gotta be careful.
So, guys, when we say this, if your game is arcing, turn it off. It's time to do the repair and then come back. Yeah, if you know there's arcing, you know there's a problem, and that problem is with the flyback. So most of the time, it's good to just go ahead and replace it. It's a good time to just go ahead and fix that area of. It could be some other stuff. They're hot and stuff, but if it's coming from that anode tube going down to that flyback, it's a good time to replace it. And
Tim, we should mention that there are other ways to fit. A lot of times arcing is caused by a crack in the flyback, some kind of
usually
opening in the flyback,
crack.
right? That where the high voltage is actually getting out of the flyback and then arcing to the nearest ground.
Right.
And a lot of times that nearest ground is like a little metal plate on the chassis. And so what you see is that little arc that kind of goes across that metal plate, and then it hits. Hopefully you've got your chassis grounded. Hopefully you do, so that it just goes out your exit plug there, your ground prong. But if you don't, then it can cause serious damage to other parts. You have to be careful with that. So if you see arcing, turn it off immediately. We do show arcing, Tim, in our troubleshooting games that are playing blind video. And if you guys have seen that or not seen that, this is Tim's reaction when he sees it. I love that picture.
That's a still shot.
Yeah, you need to put that on your Christmas card.
We need to caption that, right?
That's right.
This video.
That'd be a great meme right there.
Right.
I'm just telling you. So, but I just love that picture. It's one of my favorite pictures, Tim. But
I'm glad you like it. I'm not a big fan.
Oh, it's great. It's great. But anyway, first off, please be careful. Like Tim mentioned, arcing is dangerous. So be sure to practice good electrical safety when working on this issue. Very important, guys. With that said, arcing is usually caused by a cracked or damaged flyback. You can check to make sure the anode is attached correctly. Because, Tim, you mentioned the anode, so I'm like, if it's not attached correctly, there's a possibility it could be arcing from there. But, I mean, we don't see that very often. And so, but since he mentioned the anode, I'm like, go ahead and check it just to make sure. But more than likely, you will have to replace your flyback. Now, Tim, you've talked about this before, like using like a silicone putty or something to fill the crack or the hole.
Right.
That is a temporary fix.
Yes.
We should mention that. So if for some reason, and Tim, this has been happening more lately, if you can't find a flyback for your monitor, okay, which happens, but nowadays, I think there are people doing repros of a lot of the common flybacks, so it's not as much of an issue. But if for some reason you can't find a flyback replacement flyback, then you can fill a lot of times the crack or the hole with something, but that is a temporary fix at best, because I'm telling you, it's not going to hold as long as the original flyback would have.
Right.
And so eventually the high voltage will seep out of there, and then you're going to have the arcing again.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time.
This is time to repair.
Right, exactly. Oh, somebody captioned, did I do that? So that YouTube pun, there you go. But that's just something to keep in mind. If you see arcing, guys, replace the flyback in almost every case, it seems like. And Tim, what happens a lot of times if you're having arcing from the flyback? There's two other parts that are usually bad.
Yeah, usually the hot and the...
And there's a good chance you have a fuse blown.
Yeah, probably so.
And that's
or
what
maybe
we put...
a diode.
Right, exactly. Maybe, and it's possible with diodes as well. Anything in the power supply section could be blown at this point. So make sure you check everything in the power supply section. But Tim, we always say hot and fuse because it's just... That's how it goes. Kind of like what we show in the video. It goes fuse, hot, flyback. And so flyback starts arcing. It busts the hot or the fuse, and then you get just... And there may be other power supply issues as well. So make sure you check those, and also check out our video on troubleshooting games that are playing blind.
Yeah. What's unique about that video, John, is literally we show just about everything that could go wrong with a monitor goes wrong in that video.
Yeah.
We fix one thing, something else happens.
Yeah.
Fix something else happens. So if you haven't seen that video, if nothing else, you want to know why I'm making that face, you can or if you're not sure what arcing is, you can go back and watch that.
Yeah. Somebody said that you could do the Ric Flair woo. Woo!
Yeah.
So there you go. So. Yeah, exactly. I love the Ric Flair woo. So anyway, well, they say, can I get 2 claps in a Ric Flair? You know.
Yeah.
Woo! There you go. So anyway, so yeah, I think Ric Flair fits you well there. But anyway, Danny also says, I had a game that had a crack in the flyback. Yeah, and this is a common thing, guys. Over time, like that high voltage, it's high voltage, you know? And eventually, I mean, you know, plastic gets worn and the insulation on the inside gets worn and crack, pop, piss stuff, you know, it happens. So definitely be careful around cracked or broken flybacks anytime you're using them, and turn them off immediately, replace them. Or you can try to fill them with silicone putty or other things, but, you know, a lot of times we don't. So somebody said sounded like a welder. That's what Danny said. Sounded like a welder. Like a welding machine.
Yes.
So, yeah. Absolutely. So, okay, Tim, let us move on to Lee. And Lee says, hello, I have a Golden Tee Complete at home. Everything was working great until the other day. I was playing, and the more I played, the screen started to fade to pink. I was told the motherboard was going out. If so, how can I get this fixed and find the right part? Thanks, Lee. So, Tim, Golden Tee Complete with pink screen. Seems like this is a common problem with Golden Tees.
I've kind of seen
a lot of Golden Tees with like pink screens, and it just happens over time. But Tim, what do you think's going on here with Lee's pink screen Golden Tee?
Well, I don't know. You know, my first reaction would not be motherboard, although I guess it's possible. Most of the time, that's a monitor problem, like you're losing blue and green, so you're getting more red, and that's showing through. So that's what we need to try to... I would look into the monitor and repairing the monitor.
Now, it really depends. And Tim, he just says fading to pink, so I'm like, is it fading to pink and you can't play it? Or is it fading to pink and you can still see it, but it's just a brighter shade of pink now?
Right.
And so that's the question, is like, is it fading to just like a solid pink screen, or is it fading to like a pink screen but I can still play the game? Right. If it's fading to a pink screen and you can still play the game, more than likely it's a monitor issue. If it's fading to just a solid pink screen and like all of a sudden you can't play it, that may be a motherboard issue. So, but Tim, Golden Tee Complete in most cases is a PC-based game.
Okay.
So it has a hard drive, it has a video card,
right?
And so if there is a problem on the motherboard, it's probably going to be in the video card. And Tim, I actually found a picture of the board set here, Golden Tee Complete board set. You'll see the hard drive in the upper left-hand corner. You'll see the power supply on the right. And then where the big red box is, you'll see a video card that plugs into the board. And I believe that's an AGP slot, Tim, because this is before PCIe. Right. You know, so AGP, Advanced Graphics Port, it may even be a traditional PCI. I'm not for sure. You'd have to consult the manual. The manual should tell you. But, you know, Tim, that video card, finding it may be a little bit of a trick. I don't know if it's proprietary or not or anything like that. I'm not as familiar with Golden Tee Complete as I should be probably, but you may have to get a proprietary video card for that. But, you know, luckily, IT still has, Incredible Technology still has a lot of the manuals and stuff on their website for pretty much every version of Golden Tee. So I would check the manual and see what it says you need, and then kind of order, see if you can find that particular part. Incredible Technologies may have one sitting around. I mean, you never know, but I would doubt it at this point, considering that Complete's pretty old by standards, at least 15 years old, I think. So, because I think it's based on the Golden Tee 4 set. So, I mean, it's a little older, but they may have one around. If not, you may be able to find one from an operator or something like that. But if it is in the board, it's probably in the video card. But like Tim said, in most cases, when we have like fading color issues like this, and I'm just going to read the slide, typically it's related to the monitor chassis. The fact that you're seeing a bunch of paint makes us think that you've lost the colors blue and or green on your arcade monitor. Now you're seeing an overabundance of red in your picture. Check out our post on checking a monitor tube with Michael for some tips on how to deal with monitor color issues. Also, the Golden Tee Complete board set has a separate video card, so it's possible that, if it's a board issue, it's in the video card and not in the motherboard. So there we go. Good?
Okay, good.
Good. Anything else for Lee? Good?
No, I think so.
Okay.
Anything in the chat?
Nope. I think we're caught up at this point. YouTube Punk just left a buzz, which is a great sound for the ARC. And Tim, it almost sounds more like a constant crackle, like when you get that crackling sound from a fireplace.
Right.
But it's like somebody just doing that crackling sound over and over again.
Right.
Like chestnuts roasting on open fire kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so that's arcing to me. What does arcing sound like to you? Let us know. So, let me see what we got here. Okay, it looks like we got a couple more here, Tim. We actually have one more question, and then we're going to answer a couple from YouTube. So This next one's from Nate. Hi, not sure if you guys are still answering questions in 2019, but I'll give it a try.
One more month.
Yes, at least for one more month, right? Exactly. I have fully installed a 1162-in-1 multi-game JAMMA board, and everything is fully functioning. My question is, what do I need the service wire for? I understand the need for a test wire and button. I use that often, but what is the service wire for? Doesn't seem needed. Let me know. Thanks. So, Tim, this is a great question. Actually, a question we get fairly often. Like, people are like, I see the test button. I know what the test button does. Gets me into the test menu. But what in the world does the service button do?
Right. Well, it was originally designed... let me give you a real life example. When I worked for Chuck E. Cheese, back before everything went to a card and you actually had physical tokens, we would go in every week and we would write down the meter numbers, okay?
Coin meters. And then the next week, let's say it had 1,000, was the 1,000 this week, and the next week said 2,500. You knew it had 1,500 plays. So guess what? How many tokens there should be in that bucket? 1,500.
Within a margin of 10 or so, it should be close to that.
All games, one token.
Right. So should have been about 1,500. So what would happen is, let's say I was going to work on the game, and if I just sit there and flick the switch, and it coined up, and I could test it, then it would also count the coins and throw my numbers off. So what the service meter was originally designed was for arcade repair technicians like me that could go in there and just hit the service button. It would coin up or give a credit to the game without changing or moving the meter. And that way it kept the numbers a lot closer to accurate when I was testing service. So if you ever wanted to get a free game, you could also open up and hit the service button instead of coining it up. Was always a little bit easier. That's what it was originally designed for. Now, you may think I'm never going to need the service button because it's on free play and such like that. The only problem I can see is that sometimes it's a combination of service and test when you get into the test menu to like change something. Right. Like you might have to move the service button to make it actually save or something like that. Whatever the case may be. To get into those test menus. So you don't necessarily have to hook up, but you need the wire so that you could at least touch or ground it together. I have seen guys, if you want to show the slide, John, those buttons are very tiny on a lot of games. You see the service one on the right. I have seen those go out and people don't know what to do. Well, it's just a button. You could hook up it's a momentary button.
You could hook up a cherry switch.
You could hook up a cherry switch or something just to make that work. It would be real simple in your game.
So, and Tim, I'm kind of with you there. I mean, that's really what it comes down to is that people don't realize that was for auditing and bookkeeping purposes. Now, like you said, by hitting the service switch, you could get a nice credit that you could test the game with if it was having a problem. Like, let's say it's a light gun game, not firing or something. You do the service credit, test it out, make sure it's working. And Tim, I've noticed in the audit menus on some of the games, it will not only show the coin count, but it'll show the service credit count as well.
Right.
So you can see if your tech's been playing that game when he should have been working on other things.
Exactly.
I'll read this here for Nate. The service switch is usually used to allow an arcade operator to give the game service credits, what we call service credits, for testing purposes. These credits typically don't count on the physical coin counters or in the audit menus of the game, which maintains the integrity of your bookkeeping. Makes your numbers right, like Tim said. And this is before we had swipe cards. And the swipe card system keeps track of your plays and your counts and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But before swipe cards, you wanted to make sure that your coin counter matched the amount of money that's in the bucket. Because if it doesn't, you could have a thief.
Right.
Okay, it's not so big when you're doing tokens because you're taking their money up front. But if you're taking quarters like they did back when the arcade first got started in the 80s, then you could be missing out on money. And so that's very important.
Or have a theft issue. And
exactly.
that's one way
have
to
a theft
prove
issue.
it.
Correct, exactly.
Or have a game that's malfunctioning.
Right.
If it was way off, it might be cheating your guess by not taking a credit every time, and then you would have 300 tokens over or 300 quarters over.
So that's the way that it used to be back when we used to actually have coins. And like I said, it's one of those things where we don't have coins as much anymore. Now, like Tim mentioned, go ahead. It's okay. He's cracking a cold one here, folks.
It's after 5 o'clock. Hey, leave me alone.
That's right. And when I mean a cold one, I mean a cinnamon Coke. But anyway, there you go. So the service switch is also used to navigate the test menus on some boards. And Tim, for those people who don't know, the Sega Naomi system is one where it is.
Yes.
And so if you're using the Naomi system, you definitely need to hook up your service switch. Without wiring it up, you won't be able to navigate the test menu screens. If you don't need the service credits, though, or the test menu navigation, you can leave it disconnected.
Right.
So there you go. I think that covers everything for Nate.
We're not going to track you down and make you hook it up. But
right, exactly.
It does come in handy for certain things, but you may not need it.
Absolutely. So now, Tim, show them what you just opened. But don't tell us anything about it until after show.
Okay.
So what do you got there?
This is a
limited
edition Cinnamon Coke.
There you go. So we're getting some focus issues. But there we go. I bought Cinnamon Coke, and we'll give our review in the after show. And Tim just cracked his open, so I guess he'll give us our review then. If you keep drinking it, I think we can assume you can at least tolerate it.
I do like it.
But we'll talk about it in the after show because, Tim, they also have the cranberry-infused Sprite, which is the other holiday flavor this year. And so I've had both of them, and we'll talk about that in the after show. Teaser. So there we go. But Tim, we have one more set of questions, and there's 3 from YouTube that I want to cover real quick before we get into the rest of the show. So Tim, I'll go ahead and throw those up. We've got one from Mostafar. Mostafar says, how do I convert VGA to JAMMA? Okay, just very generic, but I thought we could cover that real quick. Steven says, I have an old Final Fight arcade cabinet. The sound works, but there's no picture. Just a blurry spot the size of a quarter. Before it had a collapsed line across the screen. What could be wrong? So Steven has a collapse issue. Mike says, I have an iCade 16-in-1 machine with an LCD monitor. We had a power outage. When it came back up, I get sound but no video. You can see a blue light on the inside of the monitor case. So we've got Mostafar, who wants to know how to do VJ to JAMMA. We have Steven, who wants to know what's wrong with his Final Fight monitor that did collapse and now has nothing. And then we have Mike, who has a LCD monitor with no video. And so what do you think's going on? Let's take Mostafar's first. VGA to JAMMA. Go.
Well, he's going to need some kind of converter board, and one that we like to recommend is the JPack, which we've used for many years.
Right.
So he's going to need something to convert that video signal.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So here's the deal. The JPack has an amplifier on it for VGA, but you're still going to need to convert the signal to 15 kilohertz somehow. You can use a program like Soft 15 kilohertz, or you can use a video card like the Arcade VGA. Right. But you're still going to have something to convert the signal, but the JPack will take that 15 kilohertz signal that's produced by either soft 15 kilohertz or by your video card or whatever method, and will actually output it. It'll amplify it so that it works with the JAMMA harness and goes to your tube. So the JPack is what we'd recommend for that. On Steven's collapse in the no monitor, what's going on there?
Right. In the middle, he said he just had a dot, but before there was the vertical line. That told me that his vertical IC probably has gone out. And we have a video on dealing with vertical collapse.
Monitor collapse issues. We call it
issues, because they do collapse both ways.
Correct.
So that will probably help him. But yes, he needs to rebuild his monitor chassis.
And then Mike, LCD, no screen. Now, obviously, Tim, could be the board possibility, but what do you think?
Well, one easy way to know is you can hook your board up to a computer monitor, and if it works fine on that, then you got some kind of monitor issue. But more than likely, something happened to his board. It sounds like when the power went out, it got a surge or whatever.
Well, but here's the thing on this: if a lot of times if a monitor's not getting a signal, what do you get on the screen?
Right.
No signal.
No signal.
Or you get no signal on LCDs. This is an LCD monitor. You'll get a no signal on an LCD, typically.
Right. He's not getting anything.
Right, but he's not getting anything, which makes me think monitor.
It could have been.
But I think
that's
your
why
idea
I would hook it up
right.
to a computer monitor or a laptop or something and see if he's getting video, then you know it's not his board.
Absolutely. So let me go ahead and throw these up here, Tim. Mustafar, check out something like the JPack from Ultimark. Keep in mind you also need something, a hardware-software solution, to convert the video signal to the 15 kilohertz you need for a standard arcade monitor. So, but otherwise it should work fine. So if you have a multi-sync, Tim, then you can just hook it up to the JPack. You don't have to worry about it. So
right.
If you have a multi-sync, they'll do that. But if you have a multi-sync, you don't necessarily need a JPack. You can just hook the board right to the monitor. So,
True.
I mean, it really depends on what you have. But the JPack is kind of designed to take, the controls and the video from a computer and then, like I said, hook them up to VGA, because it has it also has a keyboard encoder on it as well. It's a keyboard combination video amplifier keyboard encoder.
Right.
So really cool thing. So we used to use JPacks a lot back in the day. It's a good thing to have if you're looking for that solution. Steven, like Tim mentioned, vertical IC out. Sierra posts on repairing monitor collapse and troubleshooting games that are playing blind, but in your particular case, probably a vertical IC issue. Probably need to replace it.
Yeah.
So Mike says, or Mike's issues, Tim, you mentioned, try hooking up another LCD monitor to the 16-1 board. You can take a computer monitor off the shelf, hook it up to the 16-1 board. You may have to flip a dip switch. More than likely, though, since an LCD monitor was already in it, you won't, because it had an LCD monitor in it. But try that, or try hooking a computer or like an actual computer up to your LCD monitor.
Right.
And see if that works. And kind of figure out what you find. If the LCD works with the computer but doesn't work with the 16-1 board, it's probably your board.
Probably so.
If the 16-1 board works with the computer monitor but not the monitor that's in the game, it's probably the monitor in the game. So I mean, kind of helps you troubleshoot that. And sometimes when you have power outages, depending on how people rig up their monitor, you may have to turn on the monitor again. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, so you had the power outage. It could have been that it had a setting to auto come on, and now that setting has been erased.
Very good.
From the power outage. So you may have to physically turn the monitor on again, depending on what kind of monitor it is. Which is why, Tim, we always recommend a commercial-grade arcade-quality LCD.
Yes.
Commercial-grade arcade-quality LCD in all of your games. And the reason why is because they come on automatically. You don't have to worry about power buttons. They have mounts to actually put them inside the game. They fit with frames very easily. It's very easy to install. Always recommend that. So, okay, Tim. Well, I think that's it for our questions. Now, we did get a hi from our friend Dan, who came and visited us. Remember Dan? Mm-hmm. So he says, hi from Washington State. Good to hear from you, Dan. Merry Christmas to you as well, sir.
Can I make a prediction? And we'll talk about this in the after show.
Okay.
I think the next Dallas Cowboys coach, I think there will be one next year.
Okay.
We can talk
It's
about that.
not going to be Jason Garrett?
I don't think so.
They're playing right now.
Unless they win the Super Bowl.
Right. But they're playing right now. The game hasn't started, right? 7:30?
No, it hasn't started yet.
So you guys keep us updated on the score. Once it starts, 7:30 is the time.
But Dan, I think that the next Cowboys coach will come from Washington State.
Look at that.
And if you're not aware, something very mysterious happened this week.
That you're going to talk about in the after show.
The Washington State coach stepped down, although he has a very good winning. He was the coach of Boise State when they beat Oklahoma.
Okay.
Who they had a quarterback at the time who is now the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. Mysteriously, after a great year this year, resigned.
Oh, we'll see.
Wonder what's going on. We'll
there
talk about it in there.
There you go. Good teaser. Well, Tim, this is one of my favorite parts all year.
All right.
I'm going to come over here. And I'm going to do this.
Oh, wow.
Good catch.
Right.
I threw it at him. He didn't know I was going to throw it at him. So,
there we go.
guys, I always... UW coach. There you go. But, guys, as you know, it's Christmas. And so, as Tim mentions, I'm always ahead on my holiday shopping.
You are.
Black Friday is my day. I get a lot of my shopping done on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So whenever it's done...
I'm waiting on my stuff to come in the mail.
Now, for those of you guys who don't know how this works, there's usually 3 items in this box, and 2 of them are T-shirts. So, and the third one is a miscellaneous item that I like to...
We don't break tradition much.
That's right, exactly.
That's okay if we do.
So
it's definitely probably not a box of Kleenexes.
No, even though I used the Kleenex box for it.
All right.
Okay, there you go.
No, I must say that there is an arcade game in this box.
I told you.
It's an arcade game, just a little on the small side. It is awesome. It is definitely a Palace. Oh, it's the 20-in-1. I saw they have the Miss Pac-Man and a Pac-Man one.
No,
like
this one is the Palace Arcade Stranger Things
Things edition.
And it has 20 games. So, there you go.
So, there's nothing like getting an arcade game for Christmas. Let's see, what 20 games does it have on here?
It has Namco Classics and more. I don't know what all of them are. We know Dig Dug,
Space Invaders,
Galaga,
Pac-Man.
Galaxian, Pac-Man. We know that it has a lot of them on there. The whole list is on the website, and we can do that here in a second. But that is one. That is the miscellaneous item.
Yeah,
and then we
the
have
other 2
shirts.
you'll be seeing in the next couple of months, because these is where I get all these shirts that you
exactly all
always
the
have.
shirts that you wear.
One I definitely did not have, and
this is
really
one everybody
excited.
needs. I was about to say this is one everybody needs.
I'm already excited about this one. So this is really cool. This is
vintage
awesome.
logo Activision.
Oh yes, love it.
Vintage logo, and even worn a little
Love
bit.
it.
You gotta like the little wear that they put into it.
Yeah.
So kind of like your Missile Command as well.
All right.
And then this one.
Now we went non-arcade related, but definitely 80s. And I also love it. So
hey, you guys.
Hey, you guys.
Just saying. There we go. Goonies. Oh, I hate how the focus, like whenever we hold it, I hold it in front of you. Sorry, guys, about the focus. Yeah, there you go. So there you go.
I'll be real still.
There you go. So you got a Goonies one.
Yeah.
You got a vintage Activision one, and you got the Palace Arcade.
Now, I must say, I really like the Christmas Star Wars one.
R2-D2.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I was just thinking about tonight, what shirt was I going to wear tonight? And actually, it went more on that I wanted to wear an undershirt because it is actually cold tonight. Look cool.
It's 60.
Yeah.
I mean, which is cool. It's windy, though.
Yeah, it's kind of, I needed an undershirt, so I went with the blue. But I was thinking, man, we need an arcade Christmas shirt, so maybe we'll have to design one or something.
If you want to. It's not like we've had a no-shirt policy. People have asked us about shirts,
right.
But, I think a Christmas shirt would be cool.
But a lot of people want to know where we get the shirts, or where Jonathan, I should say, always gets the shirts, and I guess that's on the next.
You guys can get the same stuff Tim got. The Stranger Things mini arcade has been on sale for $15, Tim, which is actually a really good deal. So if you guys want to get one for the friends in your life that are arcade lovers, then, and especially if they're Stranger Things fans as well, because it kind of goes along since it's Palace Arcade branded there. It's like a Palace Arcade conversion kit.
Nice.
But it's pretty cool. And then if you want the Goonies shirt or the Activision shirts, all these links are down below in the show notes, because Tim doesn't look at those, so I know I could hide them from him. But there you go. It's you guys can pick up the Goonies t-shirt that I got Tim, the Activision vintage t-shirt, and the Stranger Things mini arcade. Oh, somebody said, let's see, it's a booty trap, Tim. So. Let's see. I got 2 Palace Arcade shirts. I could have got you that.
Oh, nice.
But let's see. There you go. So you guys can pick it up right now if you want to. Pick up the same things that Tim got for Christmas. So there you go. But yeah, awesome. Yeah, my wife got me the Star Wars shirt. I was not feeling good kind of over the Thanksgiving break, and she brought this home and said, hey, I brought you home.
So this is new.
Yeah, this
I
is
thought you had it last time.
No. Let's see some of the other shirts in my collection. I've got the Son of a Nutcracker with the elf in it. It's one of my favorites. I have the O Snap with like the gingerbread man losing his foot. I like that kind of stuff. It's just funny. It's fun to wear around. I wore this to pick up my kids today. I hope I didn't embarrass them too much. But it is what it is. So.
Okay. It's got Pac-Man, Galaxian, Dig Dug, Galaga, and 16 Stranger theme games.
Oh, well, there you go. They're not all arcade games.
I
did not realize
arcade
that.
Games,
you can pull that out of the box right now.
How cool is it?
While we're continuing on, I mean, just...
Oh, I'm going to play it later.
Because I think there's probably a thing you can pull the battery out. I don't know if it has batteries with it or not. No, Requires.
Yeah.
3 AA batteries.
That's okay. I got some of those.
I can give you those.
We're good for that.
There you go.
I don't know now. I don't know if I want to take it out of the box and have it not be a collectible.
That's up to you. But I
may put it in my shop.
It's up to you. Whatever you want to do. So there you go. Rexer Show said great shirts. There you go. Somebody said Goonies. That was YouTube Punk Goonies. Let's see. Anything else? Great tips all the time. Merry Christmas from Jeff in Nebraska.
And Merry Christmas, Jeff. I'm not going to do the truffle shuffle.
There you go. Way back in the day, this is from Michael. I could beat the arcade version of Versus the Goonies with all prizes without losing a man. That and Shinobi were the only games I ever got perfect.
Wow.
Let's see.
Pretty impressive because I'm terrible at that game.
Yes, there you go. So, okay, and Delusional's Arcade is here as well. Another guy who has a great arcade channel you guys should check out, and so you guys can check out his as well. Okay, Tim. Well, it's time to move into some discussion.
Okay.
So let us move to the first little discussion that we have here, and that is the Haunted House Black Hole 3D Digital Pinball Machine released by ToyShock that plays 12 Gottlieb titles. Have you seen this, Tim?
Yes.
So this is like the arcade one-up version of a pinball
game. It's still small and little, but it's a little different.
Right. Exactly. It's a little different. ToyShock has released, and I'll read the little hit thing here, the Haunted House and Black Hole 3D Digital Pinball Machine. The pinball machine is extremely solid and stable. Now, this is from their website. Okay. And gives a real gameplay experience with realistic features. Again, from their website. So, that's what they're saying. Plays 12 Gottlieb licensed games. I think TX Sector is one of them. Lights, Camera, Action. There's a couple others there, Tim, that you can play. Of course, Haunted House, Black Hole.
Right.
Which are actually two of my favorites. Those are really good as well. So... But other features include 3D games, nudge and tilt functions, up to 4 players per game, and ball count display. And Tim, the length is about 3 feet, and then the width is about 2 feet, and then the height to the top of the marquee box is about 4 feet. Mm-hmm. To like the actual screen where the gameplay is about a little bit over 3 feet.
Right. Just
to give you an idea of the actual size. So we're not talking about a. We're not talking about something that's like big. It's definitely the smaller equivalent. Now, it is a digital pinball machine, Tim. There are no physical. It's not the Zizzle that we had that actually had physical mechanisms and everything. This is a virtual pinball machine in the classic sense. This is like somebody took, visual pinball and like I said, just
so does it have an LCD screen in it?
It does. It has an LCD screen. I think it's a 27-inch LCD. It's not 32. I know that. So, but anyway. So, some people are saying that this is very laggy. So, Tim, just obviously this is kind of a thing, and when the arcade one-ups came out, we were kind of skeptical, but now we're kind of digging them. Okay, but this is a little bit different than the arcade one-up. I feel like with arcades, a lot of times you can kind of emulate the experience and get close to the same. But we've talked about this with pinball. It's very hard to emulate pinball, right?
Right.
And so I thought tonight we would debate this. So let's talk about arcade debate, Tim. Will the ToyShock Haunted House and Black Hole Home Pinball Machine find an audience? Okay, that is tonight's topic du jour for our arcade debate segment. And so, Tim, with that in mind, let us go to the debate. Boom. Okay, are we in our windows?
I'm there.
Okay, you are there. I'm having to move over here. So, of course, guys, we'll do what we always do. We'll do a little bit of a reset, and then we'll come back and debate this topic. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the arcade debate segment for this evening. And Tim, tonight, I don't know if you've seen it, but a company called ToyShock has released a 12-in-1 digital home pinball machine that is smaller than what you have with a regular pinball machine, but it also only retails for around $400. Now, Tim, obviously, the arcade one-up machines have really made a splash. They're doing fairly well at retail locations, and this is kind of the arcade one-up version of pinball, but a little different because pinball usually uses physical mechanisms. So tonight's debate question is, will this machine find an audience? So Tim, yes or no, what do you think? Will the ToyShock 12-in-1 arcade home pinball machine find an audience with people? Will there be people who actually purchase this thing?
My guess will be no. I don't think that this is going to be that popular as the one-ups.
Okay, well, I'm going to go yes, Tim, so I will let you have your points first. Why do you think this thing will not be as popular as what we have the arcade one-ups?
Well, the reason why is because arcade one-ups were, although they were smaller, they were still designed for adults. They were not made for kids to necessarily play, and they were basically a home version of a very similar arcade game that made it a little bit more affordable, but it was their target audience was adults who used to play in the arcade. I think this is more targeted to, and is going to target towards kids, and I don't think that adults will appreciate and want to buy one. If you like pinball, you're going to see this as a toy.
Well, here's the deal, Tim. I think there are a lot of people who like pinball, but there are also people who have full arcades of the arcade 1-up machines. Like, I have seen people who have 14 of these things in their houses, okay? And so they collect arcade 1-up machines like we collect arcade machines, for instance. And so a lot of them have been yearning for a pinball machine. And, a lot of people have talked about the Zizzle machines that came out, a couple years back, Tim. But the thing about the Zizzle is that they did have physical mechanisms. And the thing that kind of makes me waver a bit on this is the fact that it is just basically a virtual pinball machine. But I do think that a lot of these guys who have the arcade 1-up machines now are very, very interested in having a pinball style machine as well. And so I think in that case that may be their audience, is the people who have the arcade 1-up machines and have a ton of them and also want a pinball machine in their home as well. And Tim, we know that $400 for a pinball machine is literally a tenth of the cost, if not even a little bit cheaper, of a actual pinball machine. And so I think in that case, I think there's a lot of arcade 1-up owners who love pinball, who would love to have this in their house. And so I do think there is an audience for this. And Tim, I don't know if you noticed, but the Walmart site, they've already sold out of whatever their initial allotment was. So obviously there are people buying them. Now, their initial allotment could have been 10 for all we know. I mean, we don't know. But I think the fact that they're already sold out is a good indicator that maybe there is a target audience for this. I am with you, though, on the skepticism surrounding it being a virtual pinball machine versus being a at least somewhat traditional pinball machine.
Because you can actually buy a toy pinball that is a real pinball game.
Sure.
It actually has a pinball that goes around for not much more around that same price. And that's what I think pinball collectors are going to look at it and say, well, it's just a virtual pinball. If I want to do that, I'll spend a little bit more and I'll get a full-size one, or they'll make their own or something like that. So you got to say, who is the audience for this guy? Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are going to be a lot of adults that go, oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe I'd like to have one just for fun. I think it's kind of cool. I actually would love to see one in person and play it, but I don't know that I'll jump out and buy it. So that's the problem I'm going to see. The question was, will it find an audience? And I think it will find an audience. I just worried it's going to be too small an audience.
And maybe, Tim, I don't know. If you're trying to say, is it going to be as popular as 1-up cabinets, I would probably say no. If we were going that route, because I think arcade 1-up, the games that they have released and licensed have a lot of fond memories for people. I mean, look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, look at Street Fighter, look at Mortal Kombat, even Galaga Galaxy and Pac-Man. Those games have a lot of just memories. The problem with the game selection on this is it's 12 Gottlieb games, and while some of the games may bring back some memories, I mean, Haunted House, Black Hole are good games, TX Sector. I mean, most people, when they think of pinball, what do they think of? Like, what's the one we get asked about all the time? Addams Family. Right? Twilight Zone.
Next Generation.
Next Generation. Games like that. And these games are definitely of the older type. And so I think when it comes to that, you have to be the kind of person who just wants something similar to a pinball machine, but doesn't want a full-size machine. So it kind of narrows the audience a bit. If they would have been able to license some of the more popular titles...
If they would have gotten with Williams games, I think it would have been a whole different story.
Right.
I do believe that.
Right, because I think that's where Arcade 1-Up has really made their money, is in the actual licenses for the games. The Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet for Arcade 1-Up is great. It has 2, 3, and it has Mortal Kombat 2, Ultimate Mortal Kombat on it, and what's the other, or original Mortal Kombat. So it's original Mortal Kombat 2, and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Well, that basically gives people the entire Mortal Kombat pantheon that they remember from being a kid, And so, when they see an Arcade 1-Up cabinet, memory-wise, it looks pretty close to what the real thing looks like.
Right.
But it looks like a Haunted House cabinet, but how many people nowadays remember Haunted House?
It, right.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, how many people come up to me and say, hey, have you ever come across a Haunted House?
Right. A lot of people come up to us. You have Galaga for sale. Do you have a Miss Pac-Man for sale?
Addams Family.
Yeah. Nobody has said, hey, do you have a Black Hole?
Right.
And how do you play Black Hole without a bottom field? I'm
it's
sure
emulating
it's
it. Right. I was about to say it's emulating the experience. But again, the thing about Black Hole is the multi-layers, right, on both Black Hole and Haunted House. All that's emulated, but without the depth perception, it's really hard to tell, right? I mean, you're not getting
to me, the audience is as a kid. Now, if you're a pin enthusiast, it's very hard for your kids to play these pinball games. I could see if you had pinball games, you want to buy one and let your kids play it. I think that may be their audience and maybe how they should market it. But only time will tell. And what do other people think? I guess what does our audience think?
And that's the question to you as you were watching this. So please let us know what you think. Will the ToyShock 12-in-1 home pinball machine find an audience, yes or no? Please leave some comments in the comment section below if you're watching this on Facebook. Or if you're on Twitter, reply back to this and let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your opinions. Thank you for joining us for the Arcade Debate segment for this evening. And we'll see you next time. Okay. I think we're done.
I think so.
What do you think?
It's kind of cool. A lot of our true arcade enthusiasts, including us and some people on our team, didn't like the one-up cabinets, just kind of felt like, and I don't know, or how do pinball people, what are they saying about it? What's the chatter you're hearing?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the pinball people, I don't know if they're totally against it.
Careless?
I think it's careless. Yeah, I think so. So let's see what else we get. So YouTube Punk asks, as a Christmas gift to the audience, how about a Tim wrap?
Oh my gosh.
He did donate some money.
Year.
How much money would he have to donate to get you to do that?
We did a wrap was it last
No,
Christmas?
it was a while back. We played it during the anniversary show. The 10-year anniversary
okay.
show. Actually, so I guess it's a year.
It's been a while.
Right, it's been a while. So we may be due for another wrap.
Maybe so.
I'm just saying.
We'll have a new 2020 wrap or something coming.
There you go. Let's see. Text JYT says, from the videos I've seen and reviews, it's buggy. So that may be part of it too. The arcade 1-ups actually were pretty good. I mean, you got to play them before anybody else, and you felt like they played pretty authentic.
Yeah, and I was shocked when they announced Star Wars and Golden Tee. I mean, think about it. You can have it's not like they just have one or two different kinds. If you were to collect every arcade 1-up, you would have a pretty cool collection. Yeah,
and there's a lot of people who have.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you'd have, I think they've got 15 games or something like that total. I mean, it's a ton.
Right.
I mean, it may not be 15, but I mean, it's quite a few, and you could have a nice little arcade. There's people who have whole arcades of them. So, let's see what else we have here. YouTube Punk says it's a keychain. Yeah. Well, compared to a real pinball machine, yes, but it's also cheaper than a real pinball machine.
So we're obviously not running to Walmart and pre-ordering.
Right.
But if they dropped it down on clearance, you saw one for a couple $100.
$200.
It would be pretty tempting then. I think.
I may pull.
Not that it's a bad price at $399. I think it's a pretty good price for.
No.
Heck, you get the 27-inch monitor out of it, you'd almost break even.
27-inch monitors are cheaper than they used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say. So I mean, even with that, but I mean,
if it's an arcade style.
Exactly, arcade style. Yeah, if you could pull it out and use something else for it. Yeah, exactly. So. But let's see what else we have here. Danny says, funny, I just saw this yesterday, and the downfall is the back glass area. Interesting, because I don't know if the back glass changes. I just think the scoring displays are there. So the bottom plate, the play field changes, but the scoring displays are still haunted house, and it just has displays for the scores.
Okay.
So you see the same scoring displays no matter what game you play, and it has a haunted house back glass no matter what game you play. But the play field
is it the old school digital looking
I don't know.
display?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know how it looks.
Anybody know? I'd be curious to know that.
Michael says you can't replicate how the ball reacts when it jumps in the air, hits the glass, and spins around, going exactly where you didn't think it was going to go. Yeah, that's the one thing about physics. If you've played Pinball Arcade or Pinball FX3, very hard to emulate ball physics. And I love Pinball Arcade, but man, it is predictable as all get out. The ball always bounces the same way every single time. And we all know that it's totally different when you play a real pinball machine. Balls go everywhere. So.
Right.
A lot different. So let's see what else we have here. There's nothing like getting that knock on a high score, a special match either.
Right.
So funny story. Had family over here, and one of my cousins was playing Monopoly and got a match, and freaking scared him half to death when that knocker went off. And I had to explain to him because people don't know. Even before,
it was a good thing, right?
Right before. Well, I mean, everything's on free play here.
Right.
But before I was into pinball that much, I mean, I would hear that noise and I'd just walk away from the machine. People who don't play pinball, they have no idea what that noise means.
Right.
You have to explain it to them. That's free game, people. I mean, that's what it means to me. And we've gotten free games before, I mean, on pinball machines. And so now I know that. I understand it. But at one point, I did not know that.
He thought he broke it. He was
exactly. What in the world, right? So that is something, you get that physical knock, scares you half to death, really feels good if you know what it is.
Right.
I should say that. Let's see what else we have. YouTube Punk says $400. Yeah, kind of pricey. But like you said, for what you're getting,
I don't know.
I mean, they license the games.
I wouldn't sell it for much less if I was building it.
RC Outdoor says, I guess no maintenance as in a real pinball machine. That is true.
Yeah,
very
that would be a
little
plus.
maintenance on this in comparison. Delusional's back. He says his phone died, which glad to have you back. So it happens. Danny says, I think I have I think it has a chance, but it needs a few changes, back glass and the graphics on it. And I think if they would have gone with a full LCD, like a full screen for the back glass that changes out with the games, I think they would have been in better shape. The price would have to increase for that.
Oh, yeah.
You probably would have to take it up to $500. And I think they were trying to hit a certain price, trying to hit that $400 price, because you don't want to be that much more expensive than the arcade 1-ups. I think you want to be around that same price. And so, like, the most expensive arcade 1-up is, well, technically it's 500, isn't, or is, no, 400.
The Star Wars is...
It's 400, right? 400, they're around 400. And so you want to be around that 400 or 500 on the top end. Let's see what else we have. Jason says, might get one used one cheap. Debox it, hang the playfield on the wall, and run the demo. Arcade wall art. There you go. Let's see. Text JYT, I'm with you guys. Bad choice to be just Gottlieb games. And I think that's the big killer here, is that if it was more games that people knew. Adam's Family, Tim, is one we get asked about a lot. But the license for Adam's Family, I mean, not only do you have to license the Williams part of it, but you have to license the Adams Family.
What if it was all the Star Wars games? How cool would that be?
Yeah, that'd be, or something like that, absolutely.
And maybe Stern could help with that. You know, it'd be something, I don't know.
Oh, Delusional sent a $2 donation.
Thank you,
Yay, thank you. All donations accepted, guys. And again, you guys should check out Delusional's Arcade on YouTube if you like arcade repair stuff. He does great work. So let's see what else we have here. Oh, Text JYT says alphanumeric displays. So, I mean, I'm sure they're just regular LCD screens, but they're alphanumeric looking, right? Okay. So they don't randomize the ball. Oh yeah, they don't randomize the balls. Let's see. Call it cracking it. So that's what the Racer Show says. So yeah, I mean, I think it's really one of those things where games make a lot of difference, and that's where I think where Arcade went up was smart. They got the license for games that there's a legitimate audience for, right? I mean, Galaga, Pac-Man. How many times people come up to you, people who know you're into arcades, and say, "Hey, have you ever played Galaga?" Right? Or do you have a Galaga? Or do you have that it started Space with a shooter. G? It's like and you go across and you get two ships. Yeah, exactly. Everybody knows. And so, and even Centipede too. I mean, we've had people come up, "Hey, do you have a Centipede?" Because people love Centipede, and that was one of the first ones that Arcade went up licensed. So I mean, and then Street Fighter. I mean, goodness, Street Fighter 2. Golly, who doesn't remember Street Fighter 2? That was one of the first ones that was in the first run of their games. Smart. They were super smart about what they licensed. And Tim, they made them look enough like the original arcades that, I mean, I just think that's why they're so, I mean, they did it right. They did it right. And it's hard to do it right. Okay. And I think ToyShock may be taking a different approach to that. But here's the deal, is that now that Arcade 1-Up has kind of busted through that, there may be people who will buy it just because they have all these Arcade 1-Ups and they want something like pinball to buy. Maybe so. Never know. But anyway, let us continue on here, guys. And Tim, I actually got to see, I know last time we talked about the AtGames Legends Ultimate, and that my wife had taken pictures of the one at Sam's. Well, last time I went up there, they had it out of the box, and I got to actually play it. This is me beside it. Now, Tim, you got to remember, I'm 6 foot. All right. 6'1", okay? And so that's only about 6 inches shorter than I am. Right. So it's not an Arcade 1-Up.
So it's kind of like a Donkey Kong size, almost. A little
shorter, right?
Tiny bit shorter.
A tiny bit shorter, but, very playable standing up. Very playable. Now, Tim, the one thing, and I wrote my thoughts here, and I'll kind of go over them real quick, but the build quality I felt like was good. The controls felt good. Spinner felt good. Everything felt good about it. I was surprised by the height. I did not think it would be so tall. And it is, and I mean, basically just about 6 inches, or maybe a foot shy of a full-size cabinet. Maybe about a foot shy of a full-size. Because if I stand next to a full-size cabinet, I may just be a hair underneath it. Right. So it's almost a full-size cabinet. And the game selection, though, I was a little disappointed in. I mean, it had some side-scrolling fighters and stuff like beat-em-up, side-scrolling beat-em-ups and some fighters and things like that. But, I mean, it's a lot of generic stuff. And they put Tron and Fix-It Felix, but, I mean, you can't really play Tron, right? Because it doesn't have the joystick trigger, right? The trigger joystick. It doesn't have anything like that. So, I mean, you can play most of the games, but, there's some working around that you have to do, right? I mean, you can use the joystick and hold the first button and play it and stuff like that. I mean, there are some ways to do it, but and then on the game where you try to get through the MCP, then you can use the spinner and the button one. But it's just doesn't feel. And here's the thing, though. Like on the MCP program in particular, you got to move. You got to move your arm, and you got to hit the button.
Wow.
Impossible, right?
Yeah.
Without the Tron joystick. Impossible. And so Tron doesn't play so well on it, and it's hard to emulate Tron anyway because of its unique control scheme. Thank you, George Gomez. So can I throw that out there?
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, so that's the thing about it. So the selection was lackluster, and then some of the games that were there didn't play well. But here's the thing, Tim. This thing is like a ready-to-go MAME cabinet. I mean, and you can add games to it. There are videos where you can add games to it, and it shows how to do that. Add your own ROMs. You can plug in USB devices to it, so you can use game pads.
And what's the price on this one?
$500.
So
it's a $500 MAME cabinet.
Yeah, you could build your own. I mean, you'd knock out a lot of MAME and put your own stuff in there if you wanted to.
Big time. And so, I think if you're the kind of guy who's like, man, I've always wanted a MAME cabinet, but I don't really know how to build one. I'm not familiar with the computer stuff. I mean, this thing is like right up your alley. It really is. I mean, so this is not for the arcade one-up people. I mean, it can be. I mean, it can be if you are that. But if you're the kind of person who really wants something like that, like a MAME cabinet setup, but you don't want to spend the time building it, this is the alternative that you have. This will work for that. And so, don't think of it like an arcade one-up. An arcade one-up I think of as a mini dedicated cabinet.
Right.
This I think of as like a smaller MAME cabinet.
Okay.
So I mean, it's a little bit different audience. The emulation was better than I expected. I mean, like the games that it does play, which is not a ton of them, and the licenses are not great, but the games that it does play perfectly. I mean, as far as I can tell, the emulation is right on. And you can, like I said, add games to it, so you're not stuck with the stuff that's there. So if you're interested in a MAME-style cabinet that is already built, that you don't have to build, this is your ticket. So that's my thoughts. You can go see it at maybe your local Sam's too. Maybe they have one set up. They had it on the Wi-Fi, and so it has an arcade net where you can download more games and do some other things. I got to kind of browse that for a minute. But Tim, I mean, overall, I was impressed. The only thing I didn't like was the game selection, which can be fixed through either purchasing games, uploading your own ROMs, or doing other things. So, but like I said, if you're looking for a ready-to-go MAME cabinet, I don't think you get one for a better price. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So. Let's see what else we've got here. How about the Quartercades? 10 Pence podcast number 143 interviews the guys who make them. And what's next for licensing? Great stuff. Okay. I'm not familiar with the Quartercades. Are you familiar with those? Mm-mm. So, let's see. Michael says, I am thankful for AtGames for one reason. Their Genesis is so downright poor. It made me get an original console back up and running. Oh, Greg, $3. Thank you, Greg. So here's the thing about AtGames, guys. I have seen reviews of their recent products, and I say recent, like this year's models, and the reviews are good. So it seems like they're making an effort to be better. I think in the past, they didn't have competition. And the one thing about competition, Tim, is it forces everybody to be better.
I think so.
Okay, here's the thing about AtGames. They have competition now. Okay, the NES Classic, the Super NES Classic, the Mini Genesis made by Sega, that's all competition. And now they have to meet the same level of quality if they want to compete in that space. And I think we're seeing it with some of these new ones. There's a little Legends console this year that they released, Tim, and that thing's getting great reviews.
Okay.
Now, some of the Blast consoles have been pretty terrible, so I would stay away from like the little... And the Blast ones are the ones that have like the little HDMI dongle and just the controller and play like 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
I would stay away from those, but it seems like the higher end stuff, like their Legends console, the Legends Ultimate, all that kind of stuff, the reviews are pretty decent for the most part now. And so I think that they're having to up their level of quality in response to everybody else. Because like I said, they're entering this market with the Legends Ultimate. They know that there's competition in Arcade 1-Up. So they have to be able to at least compete on that level with them. So $500, it's a little bit more than Arcade 1-Up. But if you're looking for kind of a one-game-fits-all solution, instead of just buying like a game that plays 4 games, you want something that can play a multitude of games. You spend a little bit more, you get a bigger cabinet, you get something that plays multiple games.
Nice.
So there you go. Let's see. Oh, someone says, I beg to differ. I have Tron on my MAME. I have a flight stick and spinner. I mod the joystick to have a Tron restrictor. It's arcade perfect. You can do it. You can do Tron and MAME, but you got to have the joystick. The joystick is the key. This control panel does not have the joystick. You got to have a joystick with a trigger. That is a have to. And so you've used a flight stick. Flight sticks can be used for that, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's really hard to get that same feel. The black lights too. I should mention that. Black lights. It's really hard to get the same feel on Tron for me.
Right. But imagine, like you're saying, playing it with a 4-way or an 8-way joystick.
An 8-way joystick, and then you also have a spinner, and then you're having to hit a button like this.
Yeah.
And that's how this is set up, because you don't have the trigger joystick. You don't have a switch on the joystick that you can hit. And so if you have the switch on the joystick, like Delusional is saying, then yes, you can get pretty close to it in an emulated environment. Mm-hmm. But without that, very difficult. So, Regular Show says the same thing. I agree. AtGames has stepped up their game. They have. And I'm not just saying that. Like I said, I have, after playing this even, I have changed my opinion on this product. Because I thought for sure that the emulation was going to be terrible. But when I played the games, they play just like they do on a main cabinet. There is no difference. It plays just like you'd expect it to. So don't just sell it short because it's an AtGames product. That's what I would say. Don't sell it short. So... Oh, again, Delusional says it needs the special restrictor plate, too, as he was saying, to get it, I guess, arcade perfect. You really need the restrictor plate. So it depends. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of, that setup sounds great. There are other ways to accomplish that as well. There's an actual Tron USB joystick that you can get. It's made to do that, so you can get that as well. So, yeah, the light cycle stages. That's why you need the restrictor plate, right, to get the angles right. So... Okay, and then, Tim, I think our last one here, speaking of Tron.
Right.
Man, just segue right into that. And Tim Mark, one of our Facebook moderators, posted this. You can add Satan's Hollow to your Tron cabinet with this multi-game free play and high score save kit from highscoresaves.com. And Tim, our friend Joe, who also provided us with the Donkey Kong high score save kit, he does some excellent work on these things. If you are looking for a free play kit or a high score save kit, you should be going to highscoresaves.com because he has the best ones. So, and this one, Tim, not only allows you to add free play and save high scores, but it adds an entirely different game to your Tron.
Right.
You can play Satan's Hollow on your Tron cabinet. So it turns your Tron into a multi-game, plus it gives you free play and high score save. Pretty cool stuff. So, this kit allows you to play Satan's Hollow on your Tron Upright, Cocktail, or Cabaret cabinet, Tim.
Nice.
Whichever Tron you have. It also adds free play and high score save capabilities to both games. Please note that this kit is only for Tron. Can't play Tron in Satan's Hollow because there's no spinner. Right. Okay, so keep that in mind. The base price is $140, and you can get upgrades and things as you want to for it. But for those of you who have a Tron who want to maybe add another game to your game room in a way, then you can get this kit. And Tim, one of the things that always frustrated me about Tron is you have to put in what we call the free play button that coins up the game.
Right.
Because there's not a native free play mode. Yeah. Right, exactly. But with this kit, you will get a native free play mode, which is awesome. So that means you can let it go, let it run, and when somebody wants to play, they just hit start and they're good to go.
Awesome.
And it's the same with Donkey Kong. The Donkey Kong kit, Tim, that we had the video installing is the same way. I don't have to coin up my Donkey Kong anymore. When people come over, they can just hit the start button. It works. Yep. Which is nice. Guess what I was hitting to coin it up? The service switch on top. Yeah. So like we were talking about before. But so check that out, highscoresaves.com. Tim, we can't say enough nice things about Joe. Joe is a great guy. He sells some amazing kits, and he provided the kit for us just basically for the review, which we appreciate so much. But he has put out some excellent products, and you guys need to check out highscoresaves.com if you haven't already. So, Delusional says, Joe is great. I met him a few years back. He is awesome stuff. He is. So if you don't know it, you need to, like I said, just do business with them, and I promise you'll have a high opinion of him. So, okay, Tim, well, I think we're about ready to wrap this up, but we do want to remind everybody that if you have some arcade-related videos on your channel and you want some free advertising, we're looking for people to submit short videos, 10 minutes or less, about arcade-related topics. Send a link of your video to questions@arcaderepairtips.com, and our staff will review it. If we like it, we'll use it during one of our live show episodes. Make sure you put a plug in for your channel so people will know where to find you. We look forward to seeing your submissions. So there you go. And Tim, the Rexer Show, Greg, who we were talking to earlier, had actually submitted a video, I think, of that build he did. Right. So we may play some snippets on it on the next live show. Okay, so you guys can see. And if you guys don't know what we're talking about, you can go back and to the beginning of the show tonight and see the pictures of that build. But he also has a video of that build on his YouTube channel. So nice. There you go. So check that out. And then, Tim, we also have our wonderful ways that you can contact us. We have our contact information, our general email at questions@arcaderepairtips.com, questions@arcaderepairtips.com. And make sure that you put live show in the subject to get it mentioned on the show. Tim, Chris, who sent in the question about the Centipede, actually put live show in the title. And if you do that, guess what? We covered on the live show. So if you put live show in the subject, you will get it mentioned on the show. And again, that's at questions@arcaderepairtips.com. All questions can go there. And then, Tim, we have our YouTube page at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. That's really for those of you listening via our podcast. For the rest of you who are watching this, you already know where to find us. So, right. I mean, that's not a big deal. But if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, then you can go to youtube.arcaderepairtips.com to see the video of this show and every other live show that we've ever had. We do cover comments from the last live show on the next episode. So, Tim, we had some follow-ups and things tonight. Those got covered on this episode, of course. So you guys can check that out there. But again, if you want to see the video of this, or if you want to hear the after show, because we don't put the after show up on the podcast feed. If you want to hear the after show, youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. And then, Tim, we have our podcast email. And for those of you who were not here earlier in the show, Eric and Rusty have a new podcast.
Yay.
And they have actually sent me a new episode that we will be posting sometime, maybe tomorrow, hopefully. And so it will be posted shortly about basically everything that went into them starting the secondary location of the Game Preserve in Houston. So if you guys want to hear that, it will be posted on the podcast feed soon. But you can send Eric and Rusty questions at podcast@arcaderepairtips.com. They are now back in business, Tim. They say they're going to do shows every month. So excited to hear some more information from them. So it's going to be great. But again, guys, podcast@arcaderepairtips.com. Eric and Rusty, check out their next episode coming very, 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 very soon. Subscribe at itunes.arcaderepairtips.com, stitcher.arcaderepairtips.com if you use Stitcher, or, Tim, we're on Spotify as well. You can listen on Spotify, and you'll just have to do a search for Arcade Repair Tips, and you'll find it. And then, Tim, we have our social media pages. And, Tim, we want to thank Louie and Mark for all of the work that they do, especially Louie because he was here tonight.
Thank you,
Louie, for all of the work that you do on the social media pages. And again, both those guys are technically Facebook moderators, so they're at facebook.arcaderepairtips.com. But Tim, we do also cross-post everything from our Facebook page onto our Twitter feed at twitter.arcaderepairtips.com. So you guys can check out both of those, facebook.arcaderepairtips.com and twitter.arcaderepairtips.com for all the latest arcade information and news stories. Anything that we find interesting, that's where it'll be. And Tim, we got an update on the Cowboys game. It is now Cowboys 7, Bears nothing. So for those of you guys who are watching us instead of watching the game, you just got a score update. But Tim, we'll be talking about more of that during the after show, I'm sure. Delusional has to go. Thanks for joining us tonight, Delusional. But Tim, I think speaking of exit ramps, I think this is our exit ramp for the regular show. So let's talk about the after show. Now, you teased some Cowboy coaching talk.
Yes.
We teased some thoughts about Cinnamon Coke.
Yes.
Since you just had that, tell me what you think. Is there anything else? Movies, TV shows, like always?
Yep. We'll talk about that.
Is there anything else that you had?
I can't think of anything offhand. But we'll talk maybe just about Christmas or some things coming up, how Thanksgiving was, stuff like that.
Sounds good. So if you are interested in the non-arcade related topics, please stay tuned for the after show, which will be shortly after this show. Or if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, of course you won't get that, but make sure you tune into the YouTube page to get that as well. But if this is your exit ramp for tonight, we want to thank you for joining us, and we hope that you all have a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Hopefully you have the best one of all time. And we enjoyed having you here tonight as always. Thank you so much for joining us. We are humbled by all of the wonderful donations tonight, Tim.
Yes.
I think we had more donations tonight than we have ever had.
Yes, thank you
guys. You guys are just fantastic, and
Very
we
much.
could not appreciate that more. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for all of y'all. And even for those of you who didn't donate, who are just here watching and listening to us, thank you as well. We appreciate your presence and support. Tim, is there anything you want to say before we exit for the after show?
Merry Christmas, everybody.
There you go. So you guys have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and hopefully we'll see you in January or in the after show. But remember here, guys, at Arcade Repair Tips, when we fix the game, we play the game. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Arcade Repair Tips live show. All of our past episodes are available on our website at arcaderepairtips.com or on our YouTube page. This show is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please consult a professional before attempting to repair any coin-operated machines yourself. The preceding program is a Varcade Entertainment production.
And we're back. Tim had to do away with the hat. It was falling off.
It was just my head's itching.
There you go. I'm so used to wearing this. Like, I wear this almost all December, it seems like. So I'm not there. But hopefully you guys had enjoyed the main show, Tim.
Hope
you
so.
thought it was good?
Yeah,
I thought we did. We had a good time. And, man, just
pretty active
humbled
live
by
chat.
all the donations like we talked about. And just
That was really awesome, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
Thank you guys so much for that. Hopefully
Really
everybody had a good
appreciate it.
Thanksgiving. You had a good Thanksgiving, Tim?
Yeah, was just off the one day, but Gaddy's was closed that day, so
I think we have a visitor.
yeah, we were just
Come on in. Who's
typical, ate and watch football.
there?
Hey, Olivia.
I got a seat for you. My daughter is
in.
going to join us again, Tim. If you remember last month, she joined us. Come here.
She did.
So there she is.
Getting so.
What's up, girl?
Keeps getting tall.
I know. She's the tallest, one of the tallest kids in her class,
I
right?
bet she is.
If not the tallest. So.
She probably is.
But anyway, so you had to work, right?
Yeah,
Like the day
well,
after?
I was. Part of the problem is when you make the dough fresh, we had to work
Thursday
Thanksgiving night for Friday, but one of the guys volunteered and he went up there, and so this is also something that we should mention now that we're in the after show. So he had a few little spooky things going on, and they blame me. They said that I brought this from Chuck E. Cheese.
You brought some spirit.
But you do know that we released a video, and I haven't told you this yet because nothing has came of it. But we were contacted by Paranormal Caught on Camera, which is a show on I think A&E or one of the show. It's a show on cable.
Right, on actual TV.
And about the video that we shot.
Right.
They said they may call and ask me some questions about it. Sadly, they haven't called yet. But anyway, so that was I forgot to tell you about that too. But anyway, no, it was good. Did the traditional, we had turkey. Our family always makes something. We had brisket and turkey, and ham.
Hey, well,
so
it's good to have something.
he's
He's
on
on the line.
I don't know. That's
We're
so
following the
close.
Cowboy game. Sorry.
That's so close.
So somebody asked, "What's your favorite arcade game?" No, you don't know. You don't know what your favorite arcade game is?
All these games in here, I bet I can guess.
What's your favorite one? You play them all the time. Which one? The arcade one up? So I have the 12-in-1.
Right.
Yeah, we actually shot a video on that. I need to edit. She likes the 12-in-1, arcade one up, and the arcade one up's cool because it's their size, right?
Yes.
So I mean that one is actually at her size. So she
Cowboys
likes
ball.
Hey, look at that. She likes the 12-in-1 arcade one up. Look at that. So they're great for kids. Golly, if I was a kid when that thing came out,
I'd play it.
Oh man, it would have been cool. So great for kids, but apparently Olivia has spoken. So all of these great games, that's the one she likes. So,
Okay.
There you go.
That one over there.
But yeah, so here's the deal about our Thanksgiving. My wife got sick.
Oh no.
So Monday I took off because I had family here and they all came over and played games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I was gonna work Tuesday and Wednesday. So I've been at work 2 hours and my wife calls and says I just threw up.
Oh no.
And so I'm like, great. So I tell my boss, hey, I'm gonna go home. Watch the kids. And so she was running fever. She had tossed her cookies, and so I had to watch you and Alex for a couple of days. Pretty much the rest of the day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, and Tuesday night. Of course, Wednesday, and then part of the day on Thursday. She started feeling better Thursday, kind of like late morning. And so we tried to go over to her mom's to eat Thanksgiving dinner. She ate it, but then she came back and wasn't feeling good. And so we came back home. And Friday, she felt a lot better.
Okay.
So by Friday, she was kind of back to normal. Then we had a Thanksgiving dinner here. Like we had bought stuff for Thanksgiving dinner. And so we did our Thanksgiving. And then I started not feeling good like Friday night. I felt a little, but luckily I didn't get what she had.
Mm-hmm.
I ate something or something, but yeah, so it's kind of a weird Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But we still got to eat Thanksgiving meal. But it kind of compressed all of our stuff because like usually we get a fresh tree every year. Usually we get that like the day before Thanksgiving, but of course she was sick, couldn't do that. Usually we put up lights like the weekend after Thanksgiving, but with all the other chaos and stuff, couldn't do that. And so it just kind of turned into
so you're like
put
a
us
couple
behind.
days behind.
Exactly,
Yeah.
which is why my lights aren't up yet. We got behind, through all the stuff. So, yeah. But other than that, we're back on track for the most part, right? We got our tree, we got lights. We've got some lights outside, but we haven't put the lights on the roof yet.
Got any presents under the tree yet?
No presents under the tree. Yours is like the first one I've wrapped. We've got presents, but none under the tree. Wrapping gifts is hard, isn't it? So, but Let's see. Yeah, that was it for Thanksgiving. So usually we do an investment talk update. Is there anything to update on, really?
Boy, it is. We are not panic mode, but talk about a tumble. It has down about $6.30.
Speaking of which, did you see how the stock market never rallies like during a holiday?
Right.
And it rallied. Did you see
Right.
that? That was crazy.
It was crazy.
Like Friday, like it shot up. I mean, I've never seen it do that on a holiday week.
Right.
I mean, just goes to show you. I guess
so
things
my
are
longer term investments, which are in mutual funds and stuff, are doing great. But yeah, it's like picking a stock they're just really being unpredictable right now.
They really are.
The ones that I thought would be moving are not, and the ones that I just out of nowhere are just kind of spiking up, and so
yeah.
I'm just playing it cautious right now. Bitcoin's way down. I'm not even buying, even though it's down.
Right.
I normally like to buy in, but it's just not moving very much, and so typical December's usually a good stock month. A lot of stuff does tend to move mid-December, but this is kind of early, so maybe that's a good sign of things to come. Mm-hmm. That's where we are. Not super good. We're definitely holding. We'll see where that goes.
There you go. But Tim, one of the things I want to mention was that obviously Sony, we talked about it last show, announced that PlayStation Vue they were going to shut it down.
Right.
Since they've made that announcement, Sony stock has jumped up tremendously.
Wow.
Like it is like going through the roof. And you know why? Because PlayStation Vue was such a loss for them.
Wow.
It was eating into profits that much. And so the fact that they're shutting it down, that means
have
they're
more
going to be
confidence
profitable.
in them, yeah.
Exactly. So it's amazing what saying you're going to shut down a money-losing division will do. So,
Right.
I mean, and as much as I like PlayStation Vue, it was losing money. And, I mean, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
Right.
So let's see. December, January events. Christmas, New Year's plans. What do you got?
Well, we, again, will only be closed Christmas Day. Maybe be off Christmas Eve or we'll only work
Early,
a few
I was about to say.
earlies.
Nobody's going to be there at Christmas Eve night. Like, nobody's going to be eating there.
So, that's, we'll be here in town because I need to, the rest of the time we should be busy. Anytime school's out and stuff. So we've had a busy start. We also hit our 1 year anniversary the other day. So now we kind of know what to expect. We got something to compare it to. We know if we were up or down. And it looks like we're going to be having a few busy weeks here coming up.
There you go. For me, we're off Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. But we're going probably the Friday after Christmas. We're going to go to see the ice sculptures at the Gaylord Texan.
Nice.
If you've ever done that before, we do that every year.
That.
But one of the things that Olivia likes to do, she likes to do the snow tubing.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, they have these big ramps. You get a tube, and you go up to the top, and it's covered in snow. And they have 2-person tubes, and you get in the tubes, and you slide down, and it's super fun.
That looks
like one of our favorite things to do all year.
Yeah, because we don't get much snow here, but we can manufacture it and play it.
That's exactly correct.
It's good.
So we're gonna do some snow tubing, right? We're gonna see the ice exhibit. So the ice exhibit is where they carve sculptures out of ice, and so when you go in there, it's like 10 degrees or less. And then you have these big blue jackets that you wear. But everything in there, like all of the sculptures are carved out of ice. And this year's theme is a Charlie Brown Christmas. And so it's going to be all Charlie Brown characters. Last year's was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And so like every year they do a different theme.
That'll be interesting.
It'll be good to see the Charlie Brown one, huh? You think we'll find a sneak peek?
It was cold.
It is super cold, isn't it? And your
wear
phone
gloves.
only lasts for like 5 minutes. There's something about the cold that eats your battery.
Wow.
So like if you try to take your phone out to snap pictures, it'll die.
Wow. Crazy.
So it is really crazy. So you have to bring a battery charger with you, basically.
That is crazy. I didn't know that.
Or keep it in your pocket near you, very warm. So, so we'll be doing that. New Year's, we were talking like we should do something, but like it's one of those things where it's like we should do something, and then it comes and it's like, oh, we're just gonna go to bed early.
Right.
So
stay home, watch movies.
Exactly. So, Text JYT says, what location of the Mr. Gaddy's? I just say the only one in East Texas.
Yes.
The only Mr. Gaddy's in the East Texas area. But it is the Tyler, Texas location.
Yes.
Correct? So you can tell people that. So the Tyler, Texas location of Mr. Gaddy's is where Tim works. So, but let's see. What else I got here? Okay. Cowboys talk. So the Cowboys are currently up 7-0. They had an interception, Tim. We just saw.
The Cowboys could be the first team in forever to win their division with a losing record.
Yeah.
It literally could
Wasn't
go.
Seattle the last team to do that?
Maybe so. And I think they even won a playoff game after that.
That's
so,
right.
a lot of talk.
There's a flag on that.
is will Jason Garrett leave? And there's been a lot of talk about replacements. Urban Meyer.
So I don't think he'll leave. I think he'll get let.
Bob Stoops.
The contract will not get renewed.
Well, here's the key. What I've also heard is other teams are now saying if you're not going to renew his contract, he is not going to be sitting at home next year. There's a lot of people that will probably be coaching somewhere else.
There's a lot of other teams he'll be clapping for.
Yes. So, as a Cowboys fan, it is tough to watch. It's kind of like, I feel like we're in a bad marriage and we're threatening divorce every week, but then comes game time and I'm in love again.
Yeah.
But then I'm really mad after that,
yes.
and I'm thinking I should have left you and joined the Texans or somebody or the Saints.
I've been a Dallas Cowboys fan for a long time.
You got to like it good and bad, but this is really getting frustrating.
Agreed.
How you can play like you could beat everybody on the planet one week.
And the talent is there, but Tim, I think the one thing that everybody can agree with is that our game management is terrible.
Right.
Terrible.
And, when Jason Garrett...
Our special teams, terrible.
Yeah, Jason Garrett didn't go for it on that fourth down. I think everybody, even my wife watching the game, she's like, they're behind. Why are they not going for the touchdown?
Right.
And I'm like, wow.
Moment of
you
clarity.
don't even know
what is this?
You don't even hardly know what certain positions are called when you get it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So it's not going to be Urban Meyer. It's not going to be Bob Stoops. And I doubt...
We had an Urban Meyer down here. Most college football coaches don't translate to the NFL. Urban Meyer would probably fall too.
And I don't think that Lincoln Riley, he's got such a good deal at Oklahoma. Now, I do think that out of all of them, Lincoln Riley has the mind kind of. I think he's a good coach.
Sure.
Like, if you watch Oklahoma play, he just makes, he'll do some crazy play that you just, out of nowhere on, it's very unpredictable. And people... That's what the Cowboys are. Most of the time are very predictable in certain situations. You know what's going to happen. You can call the play yourself. He's very unpredictable.
Right.
And people like that about him. And I think he could be a good... But why? Why would you want to deal with the Cowboys mess if you can, live like a king in Oklahoma and recruit, do all that stuff? So unless that's his ultimate goal, I can't see him leaving. But when Coach Peterson left the other day... Washington State, I think it is Washington State. He was the Boise State coach when they were really good. He coached Kellen Moore, who is the offensive coordinator, which the Cowboys' problem hasn't been on offense this year.
Right.
I would very much see him stay. They've had the number one offense up until maybe a
Bears
week
just
ago.
Scored 7-7. Well, 7-6.
So, I think that his former coach coming in, a lot of things, just kind of coincidental that he resigns on a winning team. He's got a good program. What's going on? He just kind of said he wants to start a new chapter. Assured everybody it wasn't infidelity or something crazy going on with him and his family, or he wasn't nothing embarrassing. He wants to start this new chapter. And so I'm kind of curious about seeing if he will come. Be my prediction.
I don't think Jason Garrett's going to be around next year. I don't know who's going to be the replacement, but I don't think
the only thing that would save his job is if they make some kind of run and win the Super Bowl, or
make it. I think even if they made it,
I think they would have to make the Super Bowl. I don't even think making the NFC Championship game and losing would keep it.
I don't think so either.
I think he has to make the Super Bowl. And then what do? You got to reward a guy who makes a Super Bowl somehow if his team, he can rally them. And that is possible.
Let's try out, yeah.
And in Cowboys history, we were just talking about earlier, it has happened. But is this the team that's going to get together and do that? I just don't know. I don't see it.
There you go. We got a couple of things here. Let's talk about the Pirate, Mike Leach. I like Mike Leach. He is hilarious. Have you ever heard Mike Leach?
Yes, Mike Leach.
He will. You just ask him about the most random topic, and he will just go off on it and tell you like everything he knows about it, which is crazy.
Yes.
He some of the
never
players,
bats an eye. Like, what kind of superhero would you be? And he just goes like it was.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he starts pontificating on everything. It's like, well, I think Superman would be great because he's got the laser eyes and super strength. But the Flash, with the super speed would be very helpful with the time traveling as well.
And so, Mike Leach would be worth it just to hear his after game interview.
Oh.
I hope somebody gets him just because he's that much interesting to watch. Yeah.
They used to have him on one of the sports talk shows that I listen to all the time. And I mean, they wouldn't talk to him at all about anything sports related. Always about all your stuff. And it was always fascinating. The guy can just talk. He can talk and talk and talk. Yeah. It's crazy. So, but I do like that. Joe Rivera's here. Awesome show, guys. Joe. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Joe. Awesome. Let's see. What else we have? Michael says, kind of like Heisman winners going to the NFL. They almost universally fall pretty hard. There hasn't been a truly great NFL player that won the Heisman since Charles Woodson. And that actually is pretty accurate, unfortunately.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah. And, I don't know if that's because they always get drafted high and poor teams get drafted high. Because I think sometimes some of these players would be great if they were just drafted by the right teams.
Right.
The problem is that when you're...
Or they didn't have to jump right into a starting role.
Right. Exactly. When you are a high draft pick, you get with a terrible team.
Right.
And you're just going to. And so it basically doesn't allow you to start your career very well. Period. And so, it is... Are you showing them your dolls? I see. So anyway, but yeah. So I mean, I think it's very possible Jason Garrett probably won't be here, and who they'll have.
So who is the best team in the NFL right now? I vote on the Ravens.
The Ravens.
The Ravens are probably the best team in my opinion.
Can't just say the Patriots. I mean, I don't think they're the best overall team, but I think they find ways to win.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem with the Patriots.
Well, there is some problems with the Patriots though, this year.
Their offense is terrible.
Offense is terrible, and I don't think you can.
But they still win.
Yeah, and so I do think the Ravens
are the best. Do you buy into San Francisco?
You know what? I didn't until about 2 games ago, and even the game they just lost against the Ravens. They really have a good defense.
They do.
And defense can win championships.
I think their quarterback...
And can take them
into... Who's the quarterback guy for them?
Garoppolo.
He just seems... He's a very poor decision maker, in my opinion.
Yeah, really?
I mean, with the way that he plays, I just feel like he doesn't... If they lose, it's going to be because of him. Like you said, their defense is stout. Right. Golly, their defense is good.
The Saints are playing great. So, I think it's going to be pretty interesting. But...
Now... Tim, the funny thing is Texas JYT, he says something here that we were discussing off air. Chris Peterson was the one that we were talking about earlier. Yes. Were you thinking that would be a good fit? I actually think that would be a good fit as well.
I do too. I think that he just he's not as flashy a coach like Leach or somebody, but he's a good coach, and I think he would probably, Jerry's going to want somebody under his thumb. But you don't want somebody that's just clappy either, and you want somebody who will stand to Jerry once in a while.
Jimmy Johnson. I mean, look at Jimmy Johnson. I mean, I know they had a contentious relationship, but he got the job done.
He got the job done. And if you ask Jerry, would you rather have somebody that did everything you said and was a yes man, or that stood up to you occasionally and you won games? I want to win games.
Absolutely.
And so that brings us into college football, though.
So let me interview you real quick before. Okay. What are you going to talk about the controversy? I'll let you go. I was going to say. How do you feel about your chances against Baylor? Because Oklahoma is playing Baylor in the Big 12 championship.
Well, I will say this. A lot of people say Baylor had them beat. Baylor was beating them bad, and then Oklahoma come back and won that game. If you watch the game, and granted, I watch it through a different set of glasses there, Oklahoma blew a lot. Oklahoma had 3 touchdowns. They had a lot, yeah. They had a fumble in the end zone.
They had a lot of opportunities.
They had. It wasn't like Baylor stomped them and then Oklahoma outplayed them. Oklahoma was outplaying them all throughout the game, and it showed in the end.
Right.
So, if I was Baylor, number one, you've got to win that game.
Yes.
And the winner of that, so it's going to be really interesting. And people are talking about how good Utah is, okay? Well, who has Utah beaten? Nobody. And Oklahoma will have beaten, if they beat Baylor, Baylor's a top 10 team. That'll be the second top 10 team that they've beaten. It'll be the 5th top 20 team, I think, that they've beaten. So there's a really lot of good things, but you got to win those games. Number one, Utah has to get past Oregon.
Yes, and Oregon is not.
And that's a Friday night game.
Right.
Which will make it interesting because you'll know the next day.
Right, exactly who you're going to play.
So how do you bump off Oklahoma or Baylor? Baylor can prove, and if they come back, I think Oklahoma has to beat Baylor. I think they're in.
Right.
Baylor has to beat Oklahoma convincingly.
Yes.
If they beat them by 3 touchdowns, then you're going to go, wow, that first half wasn't a fluke.
Right.
All of a sudden, Baylor's the real deal. They deserve to be in the playoffs. Utah, I think, unless they just destroy Oregon, and I hope they're going to get upset, will be out because it's going to be because number one, LSU, if they beat Georgia, Georgia has 2 losses.
Yes.
Then how do you have 2 teams?
Can't.
You can't. They're out.
Right.
So that'll kick Georgia. That will allow that space to open up for Oklahoma.
But my second question to you is that how does anybody beat Ohio State?
Well, exactly.
Because they look really good.
They do look really good, and probably the only team that has that legit chance would be LSU.
I think so.
And that would be a great game.
Oh, man.
A great game. Because LSU's defense at times can really play good, but their offense is pretty much unstoppable.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
And so it may be a shootout.
So what's your prediction for the Final Four then?
My prediction for the Final Four will be LSU. Clemson's a shoe-in. There's just because they're playing Virginia,
right?
And they're the defending champs. Mm-hmm. They, until you beat them, they're the champs.
Gotta get in.
So they're in LSU, Ohio State, and then I think the 4th team will be Oklahoma if they beat Baylor. Whoever wins the Baylor Oklahoma game, I think will be that 4th team. I don't think Utah had because they just don't. They have a good team. Are they one of the top 4 teams in the nation? And whoever gets that 4th spot is going to lose to Ohio State, in my opinion. So it's like, and that's why if Oklahoma doesn't make it, I won't be terribly crushed. I would almost rather see, if you're a Utah fan, would you rather see them win a major bowl January 1st game or be in the college playoffs?
Sure.
And lose the first game at a major bowl?
Yeah.
So I think either way, they're going to be they're in good shape, and Oklahoma's in good shape, and Baylor's in good shape. They're all going to get good bowls. So they can't none of them 3 teams should hold their head low on a great season. But when it comes down to those 4, Oklahoma's got history. They played really good last week against Oklahoma State. Their defense at times has really came forward. Here's a stat, okay? Everybody talks about Oklahoma's offense. They rush and they can pass and they can do all that. Oklahoma has only allowed 1 touchdown since the first half of the Baylor game.
Wow.
So they have won 2 games since then and only allowed 1 touchdown. So that says a lot that they're kind of peaking at the right time. Oklahoma has not lost a game in November in like 3 years.
Sure.
So they peak at the good times. That's when you want to lose that one game, you want to lose it way back.
Right. Which
is sad for some of the teams because they lose right at the end, like
exactly.
Alabama, and you're all forgotten about.
Right.
Alabama really is out, but deservedly so. They're not one of the top 4 teams this year.
Exactly.
They're a good team.
So I'm pulling for LSU. I'm pulling for Oklahoma. I want to see those 2 get in. I think Ohio State, like you mentioned, will be in. And I really the 4th team. I don't know. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of.
I almost wish that Virginia somehow would miraculously pull off this upset.
Right.
And it'd be Clemson drop down.
Sure.
And Oklahoma and Utah both, or Baylor and Utah both be in the thing.
I'm with you, though. It's hard to vote against Clemson. It's just hard.
You can't, but then again, when you play Minnesota School for the Blind, AT&T, Def Tech, Antarctica State, I don't know. And then, you run through your conference. Yeah, I mean, they're a good team, but play somebody. You got to play a couple teams anyway. You can't play some of those schools every week.
Sure. So Michael says, I'm a Carolina Gamecocks fan. So being from South Carolina, my second favorite team is whoever's playing Clemson. As long as Clemson loses, I win. So yeah, like you said, but I don't see him losing. So we'll see.
Yeah.
So now you're saying about controversy. What was the controversy that you wanted to get into? Was it just
who's going to be in the 4th spot?
Yeah, okay.
And I just don't see.
I was reading your mind then.
Is it going to be? What if either Oklahoma or Baylor, one of them's going to win?
Sure.
if Utah wins, that's a controversy.
Right.
Because them two are going to claim we deserve it more than Utah, and Utah is going to say, well, I was ahead of you until this week. That to me is going to be, if Utah loses, that's going to make that road so much easier.
Agreed.
For Oklahoma or Baylor.
Agreed. So, and then we have NBA and NHL. I don't know how much you've been watching of that. I had my Canadian family in, so hockey is the topic.
Hockey, okay.
Yes, so.
You don't watch hockey till it gets to the playoffs.
I've been, since the playoffs last year, and she's showing off for Yoshi. Since the playoffs last year, I have watched almost every game of the Stars. And I have always sporadically watched Stars games.
But they're playing good, right?
But they're playing, they're super streaky.
Okay.
So they will rifle off like 13 wins in a row and then lose 7 or something like that. You know, I mean, it's unfortunately we're a super streaky team. So they're playing tonight against the Cowboys, which is not very smart. Oh, I mean, they're not against the Cowboys, but I mean, like literally, it's hockey versus football, and so nobody's watching the Stars game right now. But the last game they played against was the Winnipeg Jets. They lost like 5-1. They got blown out.
Wow.
And I mean, they just look sluggish. They look slow. So, I mean, they're very streaky, though. It's kind of a different team. But I find that, hockey is really fun to watch because it's freaking fast.
Right.
It's like you don't have time to worry about, oh, I missed that shot. You don't have that time.
Right.
Like in basketball, you have some time to think about that. Like, I missed that shot. Or baseball. Right. Like baseball, you got all the time in the world.
Right.
Or in football, you got like pause between plays.
Right.
In hockey, you got nothing.
Right.
The only time they stop that clock is when there's a penalty. That is the only time they stop the clock. So it is constantly moving. And so I find myself watching it because of that. The speed at which it moves is so brisk, and so I enjoy it. And I've gotten to, and I knew some of the rules. I'm getting better at the rules. I'm still not 100% on all this stuff. And like I said, I've watched hockey on and off like for years.
Yeah, it's kind of weird when they call a penalty. I'm like, okay, what's a penalty? Because you just basically got in a fist fight.
Sure.
And that was okay, but that was a penalty. I don't know. So I've got to learn more.
you get more used to it. But I also listen to a radio show with these two guys, and it's a podcast, and all they do is cover the Dallas Stars. But it's kind of, they also give an intro to hockey, so that's kind of how I got into it. I was listening to them. And I'm like, they started explaining stuff, and I'm like, this is really interesting. Like, I didn't know all this stuff, and you get to where like, okay, what's this position guy? Like, what's a forward's role? What's a defenseman's role? Like, you get to know the roles. So, like, when a guy misses his assignment, you're like, he should have covered that guy. You get to where you know that stuff, and so I'm getting better at it. I am definitely not like super knowledgeable about hockey at all, but I'm getting better, and I like to watch it because it's fast. It's just so fast. No game is as fast as hockey. Because I mean, the thing about football is you got pause between plays, right? Mm-hmm. If you DVR through a football game, you can get it done in like less than an hour. Right. Because you just go play, right? You can't do that with hockey or basketball because there's constantly plays going on. And with baseball, you can do that, right? It's like fast forward until he hits the ball, kind of thing, whatever the case may be. But with hockey and basketball, you can't do that because it's like there's always movement, right? In hockey, though, like I said, the puck's always moving. In basketball, right, like you get a rebound, you kind of reset, right? There's a reset moment. Mm-hmm. In hockey, you have to reset on the fly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's no pause.
Right.
I mean, because they're coming after you, and you've got to get going, and so, there's no delay in that. I mean, you can pass it over, and you can kind of stay on the outside a little bit, but it's not like basketball where you can basically stay on the outside the entire time, right? Mm-hmm. It's a shot clock that's pushing you. If you stay out there, those guys in hockey, they're going to get you. Right. You know what I'm saying? There's just no time. You got to react fast, and so I find myself really enjoying it.
And speaking of basketball, we'll bring this up, guys. If you were aware that when number 1 Duke went down to Stephen F. Austin, that is a local college to us.
Correct.
A small school here, not far from Tyler.
Beat Duke
at Duke.
Home.
At home.
With him at home.
That was. Did you watch the end of that?
I did not watch any of it.
The guy, it's tied. Goes into overtime. The guy gets the ball. And everybody just knows he's fixing to call timeout. And he just takes off. And before everybody can even recover, he shoots a layup right when the buzzer goes off. You just knew. He grabbed the ball. Everybody's looking for him to call timeout. And he just drove in the last, with 2 seconds left, and shot and made it. It was crazy.
That was a big time upset. Now, Tim, though, obviously I've been watching the Mavericks too.
Yes.
Have you seen Luka Doncic? This guy is amazing.
Yes.
Golly. Okay, he is better than Dirk was at this age.
Exactly.
By far. He is, at his age, he's one of the best game managers I've ever seen.
He's going to get a lot of comparisons.
He's like
to
Jason
Dirk.
Kidd was like at the end of his career as far as decision making goes.
You're going to get a lot of comparisons to Dirk, and I tell you, there's a different style of play.
Big time difference.
You know who he reminds me more of is more of like a real true point guard, like John Stockton or somebody. He just
absolutely
controls the game, not just I'm your best player, and when you need me, I'm going to take the shot. I'm the guy. All of a sudden, he just is control. So when he knows
when to
scoring,
feed guys,
exactly.
He knows when to shoot. He knows when to pass. He knows when guys will be open. His basketball IQ is like on another level.
Yeah, it's like watching Pete Maravich in college or something. You know, he can score if you need him. He can pass if you need him. He can rebound. He does it all. And so, I was just sitting there thinking we really need to go watch a game.
Yeah, we need to go to a Mavs game because man, the Mavs. Man, I mean, and have you seen Porzingis? I know he's been rough. Like he's trying to adjust, I think, to the Maverick style of play. Rick Carlisle is a tough coach, and they play some really advanced schemes that I think, Porzingis coming from the Knicks, who played like 1980s basketball style. I mean, it's a lot of difference for him. But I think he's getting adjusted. He shot a 3 last night that was golly. I mean, like I was like, golly, a guy that big making it from where he made it was just amazing. But he can score. But his rebounding is great. His defense is great, just like you'd expect it to be for a big guy who can move like him. His offense has not been there, but I think it's because he really hasn't found his place in the offense for the Mavs. Once he does, he's going to be dangerous.
Right.
So, I mean...
So we're definitely excited about the Maverick season this year.
Absolutely.
Way
Michael
better.
says, going to a hockey game is absolutely my favorite sport to watch. Jonathan's dead on correct. It's fast, even live. It's hard to follow the puck sometimes. When the fights start, the crowd goes nuts. And yeah...
Ezekiel just ran for about 40 yards.
Sweet!
I
didn't see that. I'm reading Michael's
Read
thing.
Michael's, and you have to watch the replay.
But, yeah, exactly. You should go see hockey live if you haven't.
Here we go. Let's see how many yards.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to see Ezekiel Elliott. Let's see. There's 5, 10, 15
20.
at least. He ripped off one like that last game, too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's ripped off a couple long ones now lately. So, but, yeah, you need to go to a hockey game if you haven't been to one. Even if you're not a hockey fan, just because it's so freaking fast. If you like, people complain about baseball all the time because it's too slow. I like baseball because it is slow. But people complain about being too slow. If you're the kind of person who complains about baseball being too slow, go to a hockey game.
Right.
Because hockey is not slow at all. There we go. Okay, so we got all that. Fantasy football, any updates for you?
I'm on a hot streak. I'm number 1 in my league. I pulled off 5 or 6 straight wins.
Got it. So I was 7-0, and I've lost my last 5.
Oh, you're on the cold streak.
I'm on a cold streak, but I think I'm gonna make it up this week. So. But I think I'm going to make it into the playoffs, and we'll just see how I do from there. I had a lot of injuries, a lot of bye weeks hurt me, and I didn't want to drop guys, and so I just took L's. I mean, because I had such a big lead, it was just kind of like take the L's.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's see what else we have here. Cord cutting talk real quick, guys. I forgot to mention, I do have one cord cutting, even though I went back to cable, which I talked about, I do have one cord cutting service that I still use, and that's Philo.
Okay.
So Philo is kind of like cord cutting for non-sports people. They have Hallmark. They've got all 3 Hallmark channels on Philo.
Okay.
They also have Up and Nick Jr. for Olivia and Alex, and they have a lot of things. But the reason I still have that is because I don't have cable in all my rooms in my house, right? And so like Philo allows me to watch things where I normally have to have a cable box, but I have Philo instead, and Philo is like $16 a month.
Oh, okay.
So exactly, it's like worth the extra $16. There's another one called Friendly TV, and it's friendly without any vowels in it. That also has a lot of different programming, but it's only like $8 a month.
Oh.
But it has Hallmark and some other ones as well. So if you're looking for cord cutting services where you don't get sports, you may look into Philo and Friendly TV.
Okay.
That's what I'm telling you. They're cheap, and you can get a lot of channels. You can get a lot of those nice family channels like Lifetime, Hallmark.
Since you got all your cable channels back, what have you been watching?
So I've been watching professional wrestling again.
Oh, really?
I'm not ashamed to admit it.
Okay.
So for some reason I've tried watching WWE a lot, and I don't get into it. But Tim, I don't know. He's missed that field goal. He missed it. I don't know if you have heard about AEW.
Somebody else getting replaced.
Yeah, there you go. Have you heard about AEW?
No.
All Elite Wrestling.
Oh yes, I did see.
So it just started up.
Advertisement.
Yeah, it just started up, and it is different than WWE.
Okay.
And it is really fun to watch.
Okay. I'll have to check it out.
It is different. The things that they do are things that WWE has not allowed the wrestlers to do. Some of the things in the ring they can get away with. They have, guys in WWE can't get away with anymore, and it's just amazing. The storylines are just so wickedly corny, and it's like, but everybody's in on the joke, right? Yeah. And that's what makes it fun. It's like
so it's
everybody
like watching Blow.
Right, exactly. It really is. But I mean, it's so much fun. I find myself like laughing at certain places and like it being legitimately interested if people win and lose. They keep track of win-loss records, which is something that usually pro wrestling companies don't do, and they do that. But there's a lot of it's just fun.
Okay.
And so it's only 2 hours a week. It's not like I'm dedicating a ton of time to it.
I'll have to check it out.
But if you're interested in pro wrestling or anything like that, AW is actually a lot of fun. So, and I did not know hardly any of these wrestlers. I knew a couple of them. That's because most of them are new. They haven't been in the business very long. But it's amazing just what they're able to do. It's golly, these guys are athletes. I will say that.
That's cool.
But it's very nice. And then I've been watching Mr. Robot. It's the final season of Mr. Robot. Okay. And man, the last 2 episodes of Mr. Robot have been fantastic. Golly.
I still need to start that series.
The thing about Mr. Robot is like the first season's good and this season's good, but everything in between sucks in my opinion. So gotta be careful. Gotta be careful if you're gonna start Mr. Robot. If you can endure the middle seasons, which have a lot of basically a lot of killing in them, unfortunately, then you'll be okay.
Okay.
And then Tim, very excited because I think next week the Crisis on Infinite Earth starts, and that's the Super CW superhero crossover that has like every superhero in it ever. So I'm very excited about the crossover. I'll be watching that intently. And Tim, the only movie I have watched since we had the last live show was Die Hard. So
which is a Christmas
movie like we talked about last year. And I can't have Christmas, Tim, until I see Hans Gruber fall off a building. I'm just saying, you got to see him fall. So we have watched Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. What else have we watched? Have not seen Frozen 2 yet.
Okay.
And I want to see the new Mr. Rogers flick with Tom Hanks. What is that? Won't You Be My Neighbor? Or
yes, I'm interested in.
Because it also has Matthew Rhys in it, who was in The Americans, and that guy is a fantastic actor.
There is a movie coming out next week that I'm really wanting to see, maybe even opening day, and that is Richard Jewell.
I have seen the previews. I know
it's a Clint Eastwood film. If you grew up in the 90s and stuff, or 80s like most of us, you'll remember Richard Jewell was the suspected or person accused of bombing in the Olympics in Atlanta. And it turned out that he was actually trying to save lives, and it was just showed how the media and even the government could try to railroad a person. I think that's going to be a very interesting movie. I haven't seen it yet. I did get a chance to go watch The Good Liar.
And I said with Helen Mirren.
Yes.
Because you texted this to me.
And I couldn't remember the exact name of it. And that was when we walked into the theater, we looked around, and we were the youngest people in that theater.
Helen Mirren.
Yeah, it was. It's definitely probably made for older, but you know what? It was really good. If you like a whodunit or who is it or who's guilty. I mean, there's no wrecking it. It tells you right up front that he's a con artist who's going to live with this lady and probably try to take her money. And so there's a lot of twists and stuff in there, a lot of back history. Some of it doesn't make any sense at all. They couldn't have lived during today and been in World War II.
Time machine.
Yeah. It was, there was a few, if you can get past a few of those little, things that kind of bother you, you're like, well, that's not technically possible, then you'll like that movie.
I will say, if you're talking about whodunits, I've heard that Knives Out is fantastic.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of Knives Out?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Oh, it was done by Rian Johnson, the guy who did Last Jedi.
Okay.
Okay, directed it, but it's written by him too, I believe.
I'll have to check it out.
And it is a classic whodunit, and it's a little bit different than the classic whodunit. A lot of people have been comparing it to the old Clue movie with Tim, what's his name? And who else was in that? Christopher Lloyd was in that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying. A lot of people have compared it to that,
Okay.
which makes me really want to see it because I'm a huge fan of that Clue movie. But I've heard really good things about it, and I have not seen it. But I mean, people have seen it and say it's great. So Knives Out. It's supposed to only gross $40 million total. It did that on opening weekend.
Wow.
And so it's
That's
probably
awesome.
going to end up. Yeah, it's probably going to end up better than that. Now, Tim, we would be remiss if we didn't say that we want to all go see The Last Skywalker or whatever it is.
Oh, sure.
What is it?
That's a
new
given,
Star
right?
Wars movie. I can't even remember what the subtitle is of it.
And we'll be there.
Of it, yeah. So we will be there for that. It'll be nice.
But now there is a show that I have been watching. In fact, it's kind of one of those I can't wait to get home tonight and watch where
Rise
it
of the
left off.
Skywalker. Rise of the Skywalker.
And it's on Amazon Prime, and it's called The Missing. Have you seen this show?
I have not. What is The Missing about?
It is. There's 2 episodes, and the whole first season is about one, and the whole second season about another.
Didn't HBO had a series like that that had True Detective, like kind of like True Detective. Every season is kind of different.
And it is shot in Germany, France, Britain. So you have a little bit of culture. The main character is a French inspector, which I just like to hear him talk. You know, and anyway,
Like Inspector
the very first episode is a guy is on a holiday with his kid, and his kid turns around. He's watching a soccer game. Everybody's watching it, and he looks around. The kid's gone. And so, you know, panic. You can imagine being a parent, what that's like. Then they go, and it goes on for years. They can't find him. Then all of a sudden, some clues come up. And there's a video, and is this his child? You know, it's 5 years ago. What does he look like? And so that is the first season. The second season is about a girl who gets abducted and shows up 11 years later.
Wow.
And so, and of course, you know, her parents are like, oh my gosh. And she's like, don't hug me. You know, and she's really like, I love you. I know you're my mom, but I'm just processing all this. Give me some time. And so then, you know, the case is, well, not only that, there was another girl with her. Where's that girl? She's still alive too, but I'm really not up to helping you right now. I'm just glad to be alive kind of deal. And she's really acting strange. So it's a show called The Missing. It is about missing children. And this inspector, he's in both episodes.
Okay.
It's a different case.
Gotcha.
And so it's kind of, he's the main character. The dad and the mom and the first, there was great acting. You'll really enjoy it.
Okay. So what about, you're talking about Amazon, what about Jack Ryan season 2? Have you seen that?
I have not seen
I have
season
not either,
2
and
yet,
I
but
saw one. And
it's
I
kind of
really
on my radar to watch. It looks very good.
And then we talked about The Irishman,
Yes.
which we both want to see. But it's
That'll
like
be good.
3 or 4 hours, right? It is long.
Yeah, that's so strange. It's going to be
Well, you know, when you're on Netflix, you can do whatever you
yeah.
want. The Marvelous Miss Maisel season 3, I believe, comes
Yes.
out tomorrow. So I'm going to watch that with my wife. We're going to watch, me and Mom are going to watch that. Michael says he went to see Ford versus Ferrari, and it was outstanding.
See, that's another movie I've heard a lot of great things about. And my son, who just got a new Mustang, or newer Mustang, he just bought one, and he went and saw it, and he was like, you got to go see it. He was like, you would have loved it. You need to go see that movie. So I do want to see that.
Man, there's so much to watch. And, of course, Frozen 2's on our list, right? I think we're going to go see it maybe once she gets out for Christmas.
Yeah.
So we're going to go see it. But we've heard good things about Frozen 2. Let's see. We're going to go see Frozen 2? You want to go see it? Okay, we'll go see it at some point. So what do you think of Cinnamon Coke? We teased it, and now we got to talk about it.
You know, it tastes like if you put a Red Hot in your mouth and drank a Coke behind it.
Well, but here's
it has cinnamon, but
But here's the thing: when you took the first sip,
it was good.
It tastes like Coke, doesn't it?
Yeah, it tastes like
it's
Coke.
a cinnamon
It has
aftertaste.
that aftertaste, yeah.
Right. So it's limited edition cinnamon Coke, and Tim, I drank it, and I was like, "This is good."
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds kind of weird, but it was really good, and so it was so good. I bought another 12-pack. So I'm on my second 12-pack, and you can get it at like your Walmarts or local grocery stores or whatever. But
I'm a
I
huge
actually like
cherry Coke fan, and that's probably my second. I don't like orange Coke. I don't like vanilla Coke that much.
Cherry Coke is the bomb.
I do like Cherry Coke.
And that's the closest. I mean, it's not Cherry Coke.
Right, but that's potential for me. So,
and we also have the cranberry Sprite. If you want to try that, we have the cranberry Sprite. And so the cranberry Sprite, I don't taste much of the cranberry in it. It's called Winter Fresh Cranberry or something like that.
Yeah.
Winter spiced cranberry Sprite, and it's also limited edition, and it's okay. I mean, I don't taste the cranberry at all, hardly. In that though, you definitely get cinnamon.
Right.
Definitely get the cinnamon. So, recommend it. So if you like Coke and you want something different, try the cinnamon Coke. It's only available for a limited time, Tim. They're gonna take it away at, I think, after New Year's. So if you want cinnamon Coke, get it now. Tim, every year we put out a little thank you basket for our delivery people.
Yes.
And so we put that out today, and cinnamon Coke and the Sprite cranberry are in there.
Nice.
To give it a little bit. So, our delivery people, I feel so sorry for them because we're Subscribe and Save members, and so that means Subscribe and Save from Amazon. Do you do Subscribe and Save? So what Subscribe and Save is it's a feature for Prime members where you can get things delivered on a schedule. So, like, let's say you need toilet paper every 3 months. Then you go in there and say, I need toilet paper delivered every 3 months. If you have 5 items, they give you 15% off all the items.
Wow.
Okay.
I need to check into this because I get a lot of Amazon.
So every month
days.
we get this gigantic box that says heavy team lift on it that they bring to our door that has all of our Subscribe and Save stuff in it.
Wow.
So it has everything that we order on a schedule. So like air filters for air conditioning, it's delivered automatically
this is a great idea.
Yeah. Man.
I need to do this.
So like it's a toilet paper towels. I'm trying to think of some other things we have on there. I mean, just all sorts of different stuff
that you need on a regular basis.
Right. You go subscribe.
If I went back through and looked at, my wife's a teacher, so we order laminating sheets and stuff. You
get reams of paper,
ink for our toner and stuff. We get that stuff all the time, so I could probably save a lot of money. I need to check into that.
So if you're a Prime member, just check out the Subscribe and Save. A lot of times you'll get a little bit of a discount for doing your first one on an item, whatever it is. We do it for bar soap. Like, bar soap that I used to do in the shower, I get delivered like every 6 months. I get like a thing of bars that's delivered. Yeah. So toothpaste. Wow. I mean, I get like 4 things of toothpaste delivered like every 6 months or whatever it is. So I mean, I'm saying, like, you don't have to go to the store or anything.
I'd be really surprised how much you're saving too.
Yeah, I know. So, but if you don't do Subscribe and Save, but anyway, I feel sorry for delivery guys because they have to haul that big box down every day. So they get, and then during Christmas, you can take it off. During Christmas, we, sorry about my hair. But we obviously get more packages because of we order almost everything from Amazon or delivery, and so with that in mind, they get a nice little thing. So
be especially kind of people that work retail this year.
Retail and delivery people.
And know that you're going to be in line and just enjoy it. Just if you don't have the time, shop on Amazon or something. But if you're getting out in a store, know that lines are going to be long. We had to go to Academy today.
Oh my goodness!
We went to Stage, which was going out of business. Everywhere was long lines and people were frustrated and getting angry. And you got to think that person behind the counter really does not want to be there, but they need a job. They're trying to support their family. So, when you get up there to line, say, instead of waiting for them to ask, say, "Hi, how's your day?" or something, just being nice to them. And you'd be surprised, a couple today remarked, they're like, "Thank y'all for just being friendly,"
Uh-huh.
Remember to do that this time of year.
Oh, Michael says he gets dog food from Amazon. Comes out $10 cheaper per bag than grocery store.
I need to
Subscribe and Save.
I need to get dog food in.
Like pet food.
We go through it.
But yeah, I'm with you, Tim. As a veteran of Black Friday, I am a Black Friday veteran. I worked 3 Black Fridays at Best Buy. And then I went out 6 Black Fridays as a customer. As a Black Friday specialist, veteran, I can say that you really need to be patient with the people who work Black Friday.
It just
make friends with retail employees; they will hook you up. I promise. Yeah, if you talk to them, and I mean, I had Tim I had so many great customers when I worked at Best Buy. He was one of them, but I had so many great customers when I worked at Best Buy, and the guys who come in and chat me up, and I always wanted to hook them up with the best deals. So if they came in, I had customers who come in every week, talk to me about stuff, and they come in and say, "I'm looking for this." I'd be like, "Yeah, I know. I saw a great deal on that, in this week's ad," or whatever the case may be. And so if you are nice to those people, they'll hook you up. So they will hook you up. But anyway, I think we need to shut it down. So we want to thank everybody for joining us. Now, Tim, I noticed that the next live show is technically scheduled for January 2nd.
Okay, that might be a little early.
And that's kind of tough, right? kind of tough because it's like right after New Year's Day, right? It's like for me, it'll be the first day back in a while. It'll be my first day back after the holiday.
Right.
So I think we
Might have to
may
do it the week
move
after
it on
that.
to the 9th.
That sounds good.
And so me and Tim will discuss that more, and we'll post it on the social media pages. So keep an eye out for that. We may go ahead and move it to the 9th, or we may be really brave and do it on the 2nd. We'll be tired and maybe perhaps a little hungover from all the festivities on New Year's Day. I don't know, but we may try to do that, or we may move it to the 9th. We'll let you know on our social media pages. But anyway, we are going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Do you want to say anything, Olivia, to everybody?
Gonna wave.
No, you gonna wave?
Tell them bye.
Yeah, what about the Vanna White? Vanna White, can you do that? Princess wave? No? No. Daddy, stop.
Right.
Okay. But anyway, we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. It was wonderful. Have a Merry Christmas with your family, and we will see you next year, Tim.
Yeah.
In 2020. So be safe partying too on New Year's Eve.
Hope you had a good 2019. Looking forward to 2020.
My 2019, me and my wife talking about, actually kind of sucked. Really looking forward to 2020. Yeah. So there we go. And Texas JYT says, thanks guys. Merry Christmas. Safe travels everyone from YouTube Punk. And have a wonderful, happy holidays. We will see you next year. Until then, take care. Remember, you can write us at questions@arcaderepairtips.com. Tim, let me put out just a really quick reminder. life@arcaderepairtips.com. Holiday season is tough for a lot of people out there. Maybe you. Maybe it's tough for you as well. And if you need somebody to talk to, please email us at life@arcaderepairtips.com. We would be happy to talk to you about anything. Maybe some personal struggles you're experiencing or whatever the case may be. We'd be happy to discuss those with you and hopefully talk through some things that may help you on your outlook with life. So anyway, send your messages there if you have that. But otherwise, guys, hope you have a great holiday season, and we will see you next year. Bye.
Good night.